Now we would like to start the opening sessions. On behalf of organizers, we would like to invite President of NIES and President of IGES to give opening and welcome address. First, I would like to invite Professor Masahide KImoto, the President of National Institute for Environmental Studies. Without further ado, Professor KImoto, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Masahide KImoto, President of the National Institute of Environmental Studies. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome all of you for participating to this 8th International Forum for Sustainable Future in Asia. Before I talk about the content of this forum, I would like to briefly explain the history of NIES, National Institute for Environmental Studies. The NIES began its history about half a century ago as a response to regional environmental pollution in Japan, has since grown in scope and coverage as environmental issues are becoming wider and globalized. We are making an unwavering effort to develop scientific evidence that feeds into societal decision-making process to improve the state of the environment. But this forum, we have organized this forum since 2016 to enhance international research network and collaboration. Experts from various backgrounds give presentations about their latest research outcomes and discuss solutions and directions for sustainable future in Asia. To organize this year's NIES International Forum, we gratefully have cooperation of Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES, and the theme of the forum is how has Asia-Pacific integrated model committed to decarbonization? The Asia-Pacific integrated model, which we call AIM, is a large-scale computer simulation model. The AIM assesses policy options, particularly in the Asian-Pacific region, with the objectives of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and avoiding the impacts of climate change. NIES has been developing and applying this integrated assessment model to various countries in cooperation with research institutes in Japan and abroad. Today, we're having researchers and policymakers and other stakeholders to discuss how the findings from scenario analysis can be implemented in a real society to realize a decarbonized society, and further discuss the challenges and expectations for the future of scenario analysis and the aim. The year 2023 makes the 50th commemorative year of ASEAN-Japan relationship. Therefore, this event commemorates the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. We would like to celebrate the 50-year history of our friendship. I hope all the participants, especially from ASEAN regions, enjoy this 8th International Forum for Sustainable Future in Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor KImoto. Now, we would like to invite Professor Kazuhiko Takeuchi, the President of Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. Professor Takeuchi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Kazuhiko Takeuchi, and I'm the President of the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. As a co-organizer of the 8th NIES International Forum, it is an honor and privilege to be with you all for this important event, which focuses on research and the application of the Asia-Pacific Integrated Model, A, in various countries in Asia for nearly 30 years. Let me start by telling you a little about the support extended to the Asian region by Japan. The AIM project team has been supporting the development and update of NDCs and long-term strategies in several countries in this region. For example, Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. This support includes joint research as well as implementing capacity development and training activities for young researchers. IGES has been closely collaborating with the AIM project team through the Low Carbon Asia Research Network, LowCarNet for short, conducting capacity development, science policy dialogues, and knowledge sharing amongst researchers in Asia since its establishment by Dr. Shuzo Nishikawa in 2012, recognizing the growing importance of establishing a scientific foundation in Asia to achieve sustainability and resilience across the region. In addition to promote actions on ground, IGES has also been supporting cities in devising their own strategies to achieve carbon neutrality, bridging scenario research conducted by AIM project team with an actual project by IGES. In particular, Tokyo Metropolitan Government and the Kuala Lumpur municipality launched their city-to-city collaboration in 2019, establishing a system to realize and promote KL's vision for low-carbon buildings while transferring TMG's know-how toward the formation of a low-carbon society in KL. This fiscal year, Saitama City, which was newly selected as a leading decarbonization region, joined the program. Using a quantification and evidence-based approach by AIM, our IGES team, led by Dr. Junichi Fujino, is supporting the realization of a new carbon neutral district conceived by mayor of the KL city with an entity sharing actual knowledge and know-how. We would like to further encourage this type of contribution to strengthening the interface between science to action. More than ever, over the past few years, IGES has begun to recognize that the issues of climate is linked to many other challenges, including biodiversity, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable development as a whole. We must make the most of our limited resources to find solutions that allow us to achieve multiple objectives at once. This is why integrative approaches are critical. In this regard, I have high expectation that AIM can tackle social challenges and specific initiatives. Recently, we have seen not only the joint research and collaboration between NIES and IGES, but also a back and forth of personnel, in particular, Dr. Mikiko Kainuma, who received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Integrated Assessment Modeling Consortium, IAMC. This has proved to be a great stimulus for our respective research and activities. In addition, I'm delighted to report that regular exchanges between the two institutions have resumed from January 2023. These exchanges had been postponed due to the corona pandemic, so it is wonderful to see them start up again. And we hope that these exchanges between two institutions will be further promoted. Let me conclude my remarks by expressing my high expectation for a successful and productive discussion at this forum. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Takeuchi. Now, we would like to move to the keynote speeches. For that, first, we would like to invite Dr. Toshihiko Maasui, the Director of Social System Division, National Institute for Environmental Studies. His presentation is titled, IM Initiative and Experience in Japan. Please give your warm welcome to Dr. Maasui. And Dr. Maasui, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marisa. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Toshihiko Maasui. So thank you very much for your participation in the 8th AIM NIES International Forum. This time, AIM Asia Pacific Integrated Model is the main topic. This activity was initiated by late Dr. Tsuneyuki Morita, Dr. Mikiko Kainuma, Dr. Hideo Harasawa, and Dr. Shuzo Nishioka of NIES, and Professor Yuzuru Matsuoka of Kyoto University more than 30 years ago. And up to now, we collaborated with many Asian researchers to develop the decarbonized society. This time, our collaborative researchers will introduce the contribution of AIM in their countries. And I asked some stakeholders to show how to promote the activities of AIM. I hope you will enjoy the discussion today. As an opening, I will briefly introduce the activity of AIM. As you know, the global society agreed with the Paris Agreement, and to achieve the 1.5-degree target, the global net zero emission will have to be achieved by the middle of this century. This means not only developed countries, but also developing countries will have to achieve the net zero emission. So our goal is common, but each country's situation is quite different. The economic situation, culture, available resources, technologies, and so on are quite different among the countries. This means each country shows that its own roadmap to achieve the net zero emission as a goal. The AIM has supported to assess the roadmaps to customize the model to meet each country's situation. The AIM is a computer simulation model, but the communication to stakeholders is also important to show concrete climate and social goals. We recognize that AIM is a hub between stakeholders and researchers. From the stakeholders, we get the input and future visions, and the AIM provides a numerical result to them. Through the interactions between them, we could show the appropriate scenarios. To keep the good communication between stakeholders and AIM, the model should be transparent, and also stakeholders should understand our model AIM properly. To realize this good relationship, we set the training course for both stakeholders and researchers. In the case of Japan, by 2030, the global total GHG emission should be reduced by 46% compared to the peak in 2013. And by 2050, the GHG should be net zero, like this. To achieve the net zero, a reduction in energy consumption, use of lower carbon energy sources, and energy transition, like electrification, are important. And also, to achieve the carbon neutrality, in addition to these three measures, we need the negative emission technologies. Moreover, role of social transformation will be important to realize carbon neutrality. The AIM shows the combination among these actions. This is a relationship between the AIM and actual climate policy in Japan. I'm sorry that today I cannot explain this slide in detail because I don't have enough time. But more than 25 years, the AIM has supported the climate policy in Japan. To assess the net zero emission in 2050, we combined some models, especially not only annual equilibrium, but also the hourly equilibrium of electricity is considered. From our model, we can show the energy supply and demand in 2050 to achieve the net zero, like this slide. For developing countries, we prepared 3 models. One is an extended snapshot tool named EXSS to discuss the vision in 2050. And the second model is an end-use model to assess the technology-based to achieve the net zero. And to show the economic impact, we utilize the AIM-CG model. So based on these models, we assess the decarbonized scenarios for the developing countries. In the case of Thailand, Professor Bundit of Thammasat University simulated the futures using the AIM and supported the official document submitted to the UNFCCC, like this slide. In the case of Indonesia, IPB, Bogor Agricultural University, and ITB, Institute of Technology, Bandung, supported the government using the our model, AIM. Now, young researchers are visiting NIES to update their model. In the case of Vietnam, the agreement between MOEJ, the Ministry of the Environment Japan, and MONDE of Vietnam, we supported the net zero emission scenario. By collaborating with the Asian researchers, the AIM provided a numerical result to the government and other stakeholders. And the Japan team include NIES and IGES support the researchers through the capacity development workshop and discussion. As a communication tool to support the climate policy in various countries, we would like to update the AIM together with our partners. But we are facing the new problems now. One is we are facing quite tough problems to realize the decarbonized society. Second is that we are requested to show the practical roadmap. In addition to those issues, we must consider the new problems like COVID-19 pandemic and war by Russia. These unstable and unexpected events must be considered in the scenarios. Basically, the scenario are not the prophecies, but the rehearsals for the futures. And we cannot predict when a catastrophic event will happen, Therefore, we may need a new scenario as an example combining to such a preparation, but it is not a generalization, but only one example. In this forum, we set 2 sessions. One is toward the realization of the decarbonized society, and session 2 is AIM as a policy tool. Through this forum, both recent results using AIM and the requests from the stakeholders will be shared. If you are interested in AIM more, please visit our website, and we welcome your further comments. To update the model, scenarios, and roadmap toward the decarbonized society, we appreciate your cooperation. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the discussion. That's all. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for Dr. Maasui for giving a very good summary on the AIM activities. So now we would like to move to the second keynote speech, but that will be brought by Ms. Junko Nishikawa. the Director for Sustainable Infrastructure, Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Her presentation is titled Japan's Support Towards Asia Net Zero Emissions. Please join me to give a warm welcome. And Ms. Yoshikawa, now the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Marisa-san, for your introduction. I'm Junko Nishikawa from Ministry of the Environment of Japan. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to be invited for this 8th NIES International Forum. And actually, it is my second time to participate in this forum. The first time was 3 years ago when this forum was held in Yangon, Myanmar. And I had the opportunity to attend in person, so I'm very much happy to be back again. Okay, so for today's keynote speech, I won't repeat what AIM is, but instead, I would like to explain how the AIM model and simulation analysis, scenario analysis can be the critical building blocks and foundation to plan, design, and implement national strategies and policies, and also develop the mitigation actions on the ground. Okay, so let me start from the ASEAN-wide initiatives which Japanese government is promoting. So in the ASEAN-Japan Summit meeting held 2021, Prime Minister Kishida has proposed ASEAN-Japan Climate Change Action Agenda 2.0, and which was warmly welcomed by the ASEAN leaders. So this is initiatives to comprehensively support the ASEAN member states in their effort for transition to decarbonization. So we have 3 pillars of transparency, mitigation, and adaptation, and there are many cooperation and support menus under each pillar. And one of the flagship report project in that action agenda was the ASEAN State of Climate Change report, which was released in the same year, 2021. And in the report, we took a similar approach with AIM, that backcasting approach, that first we identify how the ASEAN member states should look like in 2050. It's the ASEAN Climate Vision 2050. And then identify what kind of actions will be needed as priority in both adaptation and mitigation. And now, this report was developed by IGES and ASEAN Secretariat together with the financial support from JIFE, Japan ASEAN Integration Fund. And now IGES, Dr. Arino is kind of the leader of this project, who is a session moderator of the session 2 today, is now working hard to develop the ASEAN Climate Change Strategic Action Plan toward 2030. So starting from the long-term strategy, now we are going to develop the short-term to mid-term action plan to materialize how the strategy into actions. So one of the features of this strategic action plan is it should be cross-pillar, cross-sector, and cross-country, and try to facilitate the coordination and synergy between the sectoral plans and strategy, which is already existing in the region, like energy action plan and biodiversity strategies, etc. And we are planning to launch this action plan in the next ASEAN-Japan ministerial meeting on the environment. As Professor Keymoto, the president of NIES, has mentioned in his opening remarks, this year is the 50th anniversary of the ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. So taking this commemorative year, we would like to further strengthen our Japanese support to ASEAN member state. And this climate change strategic action plan will give a right pathway, will show the pathways how we should work together. Okay, then I'd like to show some example how the AIM model can be a foundation for policy development and project implementation. And this is a kind of the conceptual diagram how the MOEJ, our ministry, is working together with partner countries from upstream policy dialogue to downstream project finance. And AIM is kind of being sitting in the upstream front so that they can give a message for strategy development, the long-term strategy. And then using that long-term strategy, we have several other cooperation manuals to support the national government's effort for decarbonization. And one of the examples is PASTI. Okay, so the simulation scenario, so the scenario analysis will identify how much emission reduction will be required by which sector in which time frame. So that kind of information is critical for the government to work together with the private sector and to consider what kind of emission reduction activities required and how it can be achieved. And in Japan, we have a system for the reporting and the measurement and reporting of the GHG emission at the facility level of the individual companies. And by applying this system, each company can know that how much emission is generated from their facilities. And making this GHG emission visible is the first step for emission reduction. So this enables companies and government to identify potentials for emission reduction and take necessary actions afterwards. And nowadays, it also leads to ESG finance by the financial sector and also increase the competitiveness of the companies in the global market, because the information disclosure on the climate-related information is kind of prerequisite for the ESG finance, as well as participation in the global supply chain. So this transparency effort is getting more and more important in the ASEAN region as well. So MOEJ is having initiatives to support such effort by the ASEAN member states, and we call it PASTI, Partnership to Strengthen Transparency for Core Innovation. And we have dual tracks of the regional activities as well as bilateral activities. The regional one is Japan is working together with Singapore to develop the ASEAN-wide guidelines on facility-level GHG measurement and reporting. So learning from Japanese experiences and know-hows, we are trying to customize that system to the ASEAN region and then how to apply that system in a more comfortable way for the ASEAN context. And by applying that guideline into individual countries, we are providing bilateral support so that each countries can develop their own national regulations or legislation, how the reporting system can be built in their national system. So we are working with Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam for this domain. The next one is project formulation. So once business sector is aware of what they need to do, then we trying to make a right matching of the solutions and the demand and supply of the environmental solutions. And one of the examples is Japan's platform for redesign. So we have a public-private partnership platform established in 2020. There is a bunch of Japanese companies taking part in this platform who are willing to provide Japanese technologies and solutions to support the effort by the ASEAN countries. Not only ASEAN, but also worldwide, but more and more companies working in this region. So in the platform, we are disseminating the technical information on the website And also we are organizing several webinar and in-person matching events so that Japanese companies can meet with the local partners on the ground and then can share the idea of the business opportunities. And then after this matching phase and project development phase, then we need the finance to implement the project. And we also, MOEJ also has several finance manuals to support the project implementation. But one of the most famous one is the JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism. So this is a mechanism to facilitate the deployment of the advanced technologies and infrastructures to partner countries. And we currently have 25 partner countries across the world, and over 230 projects has been formulated under this scheme. And JCM is a scheme to support the emission reduction activities in partner countries. And by doing so, the generated credit, the carbon emission credit generated from the project will be allocated between the Japan and partner countries, and that can be utilized for the achievement of the both countries' NDCs. So it's kind of win-win situation to be happen. These are the snapshot or example of the project financed by the JCM scheme. There are so many renewable energy projects, energy efficiency, waste management, and transportation as well. Okay, and then we also have a program which is called city-to-city collaboration. So again, AIM is utilized in developing city level, the subnational level strategies and action plans. And based on that scenarios, the corresponding mitigation project has been formulated through the city-to-city collaboration program and JCM. And Professor Takeuchi has already introduced examples of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and Kuala Lumpur City and Saitama City's cooperation program. And we have a lot of more project and program ongoing in the subnational level. So how it works is that MOEJ provides financial support for the Japanese local government, and they are pairing up with the partner cities abroad. And by having a pairing, they will share the knowledge and experiences of decarbonization. And also Japanese city mobilize the Japanese private partners to the partner countries, and then they can identify the needs of mitigation actions and co-create the low carbon project together. So far, 45 cities abroad has been joining this program in 13 countries, mostly in Asia and some in Latin America. And they are now working on the implementation of the strategy and development of the financial, implementation of the mitigation project. One of the examples is Iskandar City in Malaysia. SATREP's project financed by JICA and JST has developed the Low Carbon Society Blueprint 2025. An AIM model has been utilized to develop this blueprint. And using this blueprint as a strategy document, then city-to-city collaboration program by Kitakyushu City and Toyama City working together with Iskandar area to implement a mitigation project in each sectors. And by doing so, they set a target of almost 60% GHG emission reduction by 2025, which is quite ambitious. So in this comprehensive manner, the Japanese government and local government is working together to support their ambitious effort. Okay, so this is the final slide from me, and this is an announcement of the upcoming event on the subnational actions. So Japan and United States will co-host the Zero Carbon City International Forum in 2 weeks on March 1st. So this is to accelerate subnational climate actions globally by sharing leading practices across the borders, not only on net zero transition, but also resilience, smart city, digital transformation, circular economy, and nature positive economies. So there are lots of we can showcase lots of leading cities and advanced practices so that we can learn each other. And because this year, Japan will host the G7 summit and G7 ministerial meeting, we are also co-organizing this event with U7, Urban Sevens. And Urban Seven Summit will be organized next day of this forum, and together we will give a message to the G7 ministerial meeting. So all the persons who are interested in are highly welcome to join. So registration is required, and then you can click from this QR code. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Nishikawa, for delivering us a very interesting information on Japan efforts on supporting the Asia net zero emissions. So next, now we would like to move to the second part of the forum. There will be 2 sessions, and each session will consist of 2 case studies and a panel discussions. So the theme of the first sessions is towards the realizations of a decarbonized society. This session will be facilitated by Dr. Tatsuya Hanaoka, the head of Global Sustainability Integrated Assessment Sections, Social System Divisions of National Institute for Environmental Studies. So for that, we would like to invite the chair for this session, Dr. Hanaoka. Dr. Hanaoka, now the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Marisa-san. Okay, I'm going to share my slide. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for joining this international forum. My name is Tatsuya Hanaoka. I will be chairing session 1. And before we start this session, I would like to briefly introduce the objectives of this session. Okay, next. So as many of you know, the IPCC published a 6 assessment report, and I will show you one representative figure by IPCC L6 Working Group 3. So this figure shows a global GHG emissions pathways and the relations with NDC. And IPCC said this the 2030 NDC's target is not enough. And the temperature increase will likely exceed 1.5 degrees during the 21st century. Therefore, we need to take mitigation effort very much drastically after 2030 to achieve the target. In order to limit the global warming well below 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees, the IPCC showed the modeled and ideal pathways in green and blue lines. So our target questions in session 1 are, how can we bridge the emission gaps between 2030's NDC targets to the ideal pathways? And how can we ratchet up the 2030 NDC's target? And how can we make it realize? So those are the points which we would like to discuss from the modeling viewpoints, as well as the sectoral and international cooperation viewpoints. Next, in the session 1, we will invite 2 prominent researchers in Asia who have been working with us using AIM model. But I would like to briefly introduce my work at the AIM network. I have been especially in charge of developing the AIM end-use global model, which is a bottom-up type technology-specific cost optimization model. So main roles of this model that we would like to explore technological potentials and global carbon neutrality pathways, especially focusing on both GHGs and short-lived climate forces emissions. And also, we would like to analyze co-benefit and trade-off effects on other environmental issues, such as air pollution, on waste, and so on, especially focusing on Asia regions. But I said Asia regions, but why Asia regions are important? Then I would like to show you one example here. So in this slide, I will show you one example of global anthropogenic historical emissions of both the CO2 and non-CO2. So green shaded area here in these figures, those green shaded area shows the emission profiles of CO2 and non-CO2 in Asia regions. And as you can see that the Asia account for a large portion of air pollutants, such as the SO2 or NOx or PM2.5, and also SLCFs as well as CO2. So it is very much important to focus on Asia regions when we discuss the decarbonization society. So coming back to the session one's first slide. So in this session one, we would like to highlight the realization of decarbonization society in Asia and discuss the roles of the modeling tools to assess transition options towards the decarbonization society. So we invite two prominent speakers to introduce modeling case studies in China and Indonesia, and invite two prominent discussants to introduce the current actions and situations from the viewpoint of company, sectoral, and international cooperation. So I'm looking forward to listening to all presentations and discussions with presenters and the discussants. Okay, so now, okay, I will stop sharing my slide. Then I would like to invite the first presenter, Professor Jiang Kejun from Energy Research Institute, China. So now the floor is yours, Jiang-san. Please introduce yourself and start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Hanaoka-san. So it's so nice to talk here and with a very big AIM family. Is I think just like Nishikawa-san said, take leading on us is nearly 30 years for the collaboration. But today I'm still very happy to follow Hanaoka-san's instruction to talk about what's our future for the Paris Agreement. But I'm using the multiple objectives to do by the IPAC model. Thanks a lot with the AIM team. We did a lot of work by using the AIM model. Actually, nowadays, the AIM IPAC technology model is our most important model because it's Hanaoka is working on this as a bottom type and link closely with the Chinese policymaking process. And we also get a local model, and even for the air model, this is including now the model activities. And this work we started actually from 1993 and 1994. And the multiple objectives, what we are doing by using the modeling here, of course, the first one is carbon neutrality. The second one is thinking about the air quality by following what health organization standards. And we also think about what's the energy transition for carbon neutrality, the impact of that on water demand reduction. And finally, we also think about the less eco impact, the new chemical industry, and much less mining on Earth. This is we want to show that the energy transition for the carbon neutrality will benefit to be a beautiful Earth. This is a changing of the industry. Of course, the first study, just like my sister and Hanaoka-san mentioned about, we are following the IPCC emission pathways. It's better to think about the 1.5 degree warming. And even today, we are thinking about overshooting or non-overshooting things. That's just like my sister and Hanaoka-san mentioned about 2030 emission reduction. So this is one of us. But the difference with previous studies, now we're really focusing on the recent years action. Not only for the target for 2050 and 2030, we are thinking about what happened in 2023, 2024, 2025. So this is changing the model application now in China. And China's target is very well known. We have the target of carbon peaking before 2030. But now we are thinking about when we can peak before 2030, should be much earlier. And also to be carbon neutrality before 2060. So this is our target. Then by following the carbon neutrality target, we have the energy transition pathways by using AIM technology model. For example, this just show you primary energy demand and the power generation. If we can follow that like this, we can to be an energy system to be the net zero emission by 2050. So this is all the analysis will be based on such kind of thing. So we also link the such kind of energy transition with SDGs. This the work with together with the AIM team and also the colleague from Europe. And this is the quantified linkage between the energy transition scenario with the SDGs by using the AIM technology model. We try to identify what's the key indicators for the sub objective of SDGs. Then we can show basically the energy transition or carbon neutrality pathways can contribute a lot for the SDGs implementation. And another way we try to show if we want to do the carbon neutrality or deep emission reduction of greenhouse gases, actually it's a benefit of GDP, not a loss of GDP. So we're also using the modeling framework for the GDP rather than the loss of the GDP. Why? This is to show you why. This is actually we did in solar PV. The yellow one show that, but the red one show that increase in very fast. And this is what happened in 2021. Again, we did another 50 gigawatt. And in 2022, we did more than 80 gigawatt newly installed capacity. So in 2022, the newly installed capacity for China in China account nearly 50% of the total globally newly installed capacity. This includes large hydro and the biomass power generation. So this is nowadays not only for the increasing of zero carbon energy, but also is a big driving force for the GDP increase. And it can show you everywhere, and it's very common here in China. So 2023 will be another very big year. I think in newly installed capacity for solar PV and wind will go more than 170 gigawatt. And this is a very big industry today. And many of the investments coming to such kind of sector. That's the reason why. On one hand, we can do the zero carbon electricity. On the other hand, we can really promote the GDP increase. This is another story we are talking about. This the sale of new energy car, that basically means electric car, increased very fast. In 2022, we have 6.8 million new energy car sale. It's reached around 60% of global sale of the electric car. And another future coming new business, electric airplane. So far, it's nearly zero in China, but maybe we can see the potentially very big industry in the coming future. And another big impact in China by using the model to analyze this, maybe the zero carbon electricity will totally change the Chinese industry allocation. Now they are in the industries around the coast area, east part of China. But in 2050, maybe we change the industry from the coast area east to the north or northwest part of China. This figure show you that the left hand is the output of the steel and ammonia, ethylene in 2018, and the right hand show you what happened in 2050. You can see that all the industry output performance will change to that part, to the north part of China. And in the meantime, just like multiple objectives, air quality. China also can do the carbon neutrality pathways, but in the meantime, by 2050, we can reach the WHO standard for that. And this is for the water demand. Energy transition for the carbon neutrality also can contribute to the water use and reduce the pressure of the water supply. So finally, we have a global solar resource. We are also thinking about not only for the Chinese one, but our global industry change. Actually, the best resource for solar PV is not in China. You can see India and North Africa and South Africa, even part of North America would be very good for that. But our neighbors, for example, Southeast Asia, even India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Mongolia, we can work together closely. And recently, we also think about the trading between Japan, Korea, and China about the green hydrogen, whether we should do with that. So finally, I think Asia as a whole, we can do the very beautiful future for the 1.5 degree. That's what our training comes. Thank you very much. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jiang-san, about this very, very informative presentation. So you picked up some key issues like modeling for multi-objectives, especially focusing on like from the viewpoint of SDGs. And also you showed the technological feasibility of the energy transitions by showing some examples, especially about the solar PV diffusions in China. Okay, so if any of you in the audience have any questions to this presentation, please write in the chat box, and then I will take some of questions later on during the Q&A. Okay, Jiang-san, thank you very much. And next, let's move on to the second presenter, Dr. Ucok Siagian from the Institute Technology Bandung, Indonesia. So now the floor is yours, Ucok-san. Please introduce yourself and start your presentation.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Ucok Siagian from Institute Technology Bandung. I will continue my presentation about the how Indonesian case about the realization of decarbonization society. Yeah, that's the main topic of our study. Next, this is the low carbon development that we, as you can see here, that is the basic or the basis of the basis of our study is that we want to have low carbon, and we set already some target in the 2060, and we expect we get net zero emission in 2060. Of course, there are many versions that we about the net zero. In Indonesian case, we are targeting for 2060 net zero for all sector, not only energy but all sector. Next, please. Yeah, this is the one of the implementation of the target is in the current years is that we have already ratified the Paris Agreement, and also we have made a commitment presented by our president in the Paris Agreement, and also in other like the presentation of the NDC Indonesia, and also maybe at the upcoming second NDC of Indonesia. Next, please. Yeah, this is the one of our study results from the Indonesia LTS LCCR. We call it the long-term strategy and low carbon and climate resilience, and also we have a study about net zero emission 2060. Next, please. Yeah, this is the next slide. I will talk about the net zero emission. So this is the model that we are using. This is a model. As you can see here, that we have divided several activities into labor module, and then macroeconomy module, and also the energy demand and CAC emission module. And also we have a transport module and also the industrial module. Next, please. Yeah, this is the methodology that we are using, the AIM model. As you know, that we are using backcasting approach. That means that we set a target in the future years. In this case, it's 2060, and then we look at what kind of scenario, what kind of activities that to meet the target. Yeah, we have the input-output analysis, and using the output of the industry, and also we have several assumptions in this area. Next, please. And also we use the for the power sector, we use the end-use model, where we select this technology of the power system based on the least cost generation. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah, there is some assumption for the socio-economic development and energy demand. Next. Yeah, the assumption is that we will have in terms of the growth, economic growth, and also the populations. So the economic growth, we use the data or projection that is developed by Bappenas, or the National Planning Agency, and also from the University of Indonesia. It's one of the prominent economic department of the Indonesian university. And you can see also we have a GDP structure here that you can see in the right-hand side, that the contributor of the Indonesian economy will be the yellow one, and then the industry and also the service sector. And the residential, I mean the transport sector will be less than that. Next. This is the modeling tools that we are using. Is the Asia Pacific integrated model, extended transport, and also end-use model. And this is the assumption that we have more specific, to be more specific about the growth, and also the assumption for the populations. And we expect that the average growth will be around 5.2% per year, and then about post-pandemic years, we will have a little bit high economic growth, about 5.6, and then growing up, and then will flatten flat at the around 4% in the around 2050. Next. Yeah, this is the energy use in terms of total ton oil equivalent per capita. We are aiming for the 1.35 Indonesia, and then we are comparable with what happened in the world. In OECD, it is about 26.8. We will have 1.35. And the electricity consumption per capita, we expect we will get about 5,500 kilowatt hour per capita, compared to OECD is about 7,000 kWh per capita. And then in the modeling, we use the assumption for the resources. As you can see here, that we have the potential for the solar, and also the renewable is hydro and bioenergy. And also we have wind. And then the current utilization for the renewable is not much yet. So mostly the last one is the hydro, and also especially the hydro. So this will be increased in the future. And also geothermal is significant. We have a significant size of the global resource, and also a significant utilization already. Next. Yeah, this is the energy transition target that we call it energy transition and net zero emission. In therefore, that we in energy transition, we consider as a significant structural change in energy system through the deep decarbonization, so that increase in Earth temperature does not exceed 1.5 degrees. And this is stated in the Paris Agreement. And the ultimate target is the net zero emissions. As I said before, the net zero emission is the net mean in this case is including the other sector, not only energy. And the energy transition implementation should not hamper socio-economic development. That's the condition of Indonesian case. So we still have we need to have economic development, but we also aim for the net zero emission. And then the main component of this net zero emission, and therefore is maximizing renewables, and then electrification of end users, including EV, electric vehicle, and then deep decarbonization of the power sector, and then also for the remaining fossil energy, we still need to use CCS, and also new energy, including this hydrogen, ammonia, and also nuclear. Next, please. This is the result of our estimation using the I model. Next. So this will be the socioeconomic assumption and also energy targets and associated GHG emissions result of our model. So the significant one is that there will be a sharp increase in electricity consumption because we are aiming for electrification for the decarbonization. So the idea is that if we can change the system to electricity and then the electricity is decarbonized, that we will have net zero emission. And also in the right hand side that we still the GHG emission we have a peak. We will have a peak around in 2030 or 2035, and then going down until some figure in 2060. As you can see later that in the 2060 we still cannot really get the zero for the energy, but in total, if we include also the transport sector, I mean the forestry sector, it might be also reach net zero. And then one of the indicator of the development here is that the world energy final demand in 2020 was 1.3, and OECD is 2.6, and then the world average supply was about 3 TOE per capita. In Indonesia, 2060, Indonesia consumption is about 145 TOE per capita per year, which is considered more efficient energy technology trajectory. In 2060, the electric consumption will reach around 5,000 kilowatt hour per capita per year, which is about same level with developed country, around 7,000, 8,000 kWh per year in 2020. Next, please. And this is the energy sector development challenge. As I can see, I will show again in the next slide later, but this is the, if we look at the charts, is that we will have around 445 total and final energy sector, total final energy consumption for the MTOE for the final energy. And also, you can see here that the majority will be energy that comes from the industrial sector. And also in the lower chart that we see the energy by fuel, which is we will have a significant change in the type of energy. That the electricity will be significant in 2060. About 35% is in the form of electricity. Next, please. Yeah, this is the final energy demand. If you see, compare the largest one is in the middle is the industrial sector, as indicated also in the previous charts, that the majority in the future will be from the industrial sector. Commercial and residential is relatively low compared to the one that's needed by industry and transport. And also the final energy, the proportion of the final energy in the future will be the electricity will be large, because the action for the decarbonization is the electrification of end user. And this is the explanation about industry and transport demand. It's expected to grow about 3.6% per year, and also the electrification, including transport. Electric vehicle is one of the main programs to support energy transition. In total, electricity demand will increase about 4.9% per year on average. In order to result in climate change mitigation, and use electrification must be accompanied by decarbonization of electricity, which is one of the main program of this. And also for the transport will rely on biodiesel, bioethanol, and biogasoline, and also the electric vehicle. Yeah. Next, please. And this is the distribution of the various type of energy, final energy that I have explained before. That mostly will be in the form of electricity. The red one, the red color, indicate that in terms of the type of final energy will be the electricity. Next, please. Yeah, this is in terms of electricity. You can see 5,500 kilowatt hour per capita in 2060, and also the the majority of the electricity will be used in the industrial sector also. The yellow color is the industrial sector, and the blue one is in transport. This is a significant transformation because we expect we will rely the transport sector by using electricity. Next. And this is based on our calculations, the terawatt hour of the electricity is around 2,000 terawatt hour in 2060. And if you can see the type of energy that is used to develop to generate electricity is mostly will be the white one, solar. Solar power will be very significant compared to the current year. And also it will be nuclear, the brown one, it will be significant in 2060. In terms of the power plant installed capacity, that we will have around 500 gigawatt. That will be in terms of the installed capacity will be solar because in terms of energy, maybe solar is not significant but not very dominant. But in terms of installed capacity, solar will be the largest because of the capacity factor of solar is only around 10 to 15%. Next. And this is the share of renewables, the role of renewables in the fuel used in power sector and also in primary energy. In terms of primary energy, in the 2025 is expected around 23%. That is the target of the government. And in 2060, we expect that the renewable will be around 63% in the share of the primary energy. Next. Yeah, this is the in terms of the GHG emission, as I showed here, that in 2060, that is still not zero. We still have residual emission, 129 million ton in 2060. That mostly will come from the transport sector and industrial sector, because industry is one of the sector that is hard to decarbonize. And also transport, although we already use electricity, but we still have emission from the biofuel, because the biofuel we don't use 100% biofuel, but only 50% biofuel. So the remaining is still fossil, still oil fuels. Next. So this is the challenges from the net zero emission, net zero India for challenge. One is that we will have high economic growth, so we will have increasing energy demand. And with current technology, this will lead to GHG emissions. While also at the same time, we have commitment to achieve net zero emissions. In terms of national energy policy, we have to make an optimization in terms of energy security, resiliency of energy, and also independence and net zero India force. So we have to make optimization between these four indicators. And then decisions for the short-term development must avoid what we call the lock-in phenomena of the fossil energy infrastructure investment. That means that if it's already locked in, that means because it's already installed and then we have to use it. While it is not expected to use it, but it's already installed, then we are forced to use it. That's what we call the lock-in situation. And then we have to deal also with issues of stranded assets, because we will have a lot of coal resource that is not utilized, and also due to the early retirement of infrastructure, especially the power plant. And then energy infrastructure challenge of archipelagic country. That means we need to have optimization about whether we use a super grid for inter-island connection or using distributed system. And also we have to must find solution for hard to decarbonize industry sector, because we in the industry sector, as you know, we have high temperature and high pressure system. That's not easy to be replaced by electricity. So that's why in this case we still need to use continue fossil fuels, but we include carbon capture and storage. And also we have to think about employment because we need to prepare workforce to move from fossil industry that's working in coal mining and also in oil and gas sector to renewable energy industry, which is not easy to do. Next. And also the development of the bioenergy must consider the availability of land area, which is also needed by volume sector to achieve carbon net sink targets. And also therefore we need also to develop second generation biofuels from agricultural waste. And it is typical that if we have a large share of renewable in power system, we must consider the grid stability due to supply intermittency of renewable. So we may need large size of battery system and other type of storage, such as the pump storage for hydropower. Since many net zero emission technology are new, and then to reduce the dependence on import, we need to develop local capacity and manufacturing of those technologies, like such as the EV, solar PV, including the battery, etc. And also this activity has to go through the R&D, field trial, and also joint venture. And then also one of the technology that we will use to achieve the NGT is the carbon capture and storage, which is still a new technology. So the fate of this new zero emission will depend on the success of the CCS technology development and also the matching between the CO2 source and also the storage location. Last but not least is that net zero emission in the upper will need very large investment, while in the meantime, capitals are also needed for various development agenda. Therefore, Indonesia have to seek for international cooperation for net zero emission financing. For short term, maybe for NDC, we need to explore opportunity offered by joint energy transition, just energy transition partnership, or JP. Next, please. So that was the analysis from about the situation in the NHT, but we will need some policy for implementing this endeavor. One is in the transport sector, because if you want to increase the biofuel in transport, then we need to allocate land area for growing the feedstock and also incentive for the R&D to produce second generation biofuels. And policy for the electric vehicle and transport energy mix is that to provide incentive for early stage promotion of EV, like in terms of soft loan or subsidy for EV purchase, and then develop EV charging station, provide financing for state-owned or private companies. And then provide incentive for developing local capacity in EV manufacturing, including through joint venture, including battery. And also promote the use of public transport, develop the infrastructure, ticket price subsidy for passenger. And for the freight, we will need to develop the railway system to promote passenger as well as the freight transport. Next. Yeah, in the building sector, we will rely on the improvement of the efficiency of appliance, establish minimum performance standards, and also promote and facilitate energy efficient culture, habit by education, and also campaign. And also promote the use of electric stove. Yeah, that's in the household sector. In industry sector, it is difficult, hard to decarbonize. Industry sector, we need to develop natural gas infrastructure, which is a government investment in this case because we need pipelines, and then facilitate the development of biomass energy resource base, energy plantation, and also agricultural waste, and also incentive for investment needed for efficiency improvement in the form of soft loan, etc. And then in the power sector, we need to have an incentive for promote development of solar PV in the form of utility scale as well as residential scale like solar rooftop, and also investment and incentive need to develop local capacity and solar PV system manufacturing. Next. Yeah, in this and the power sector also we need the financing for hydropower development, including micro hydro, increase investment for exploration and exploitation of geothermal. And then investment and development of local capacity in new energy such as hydrogen, ammonia, and nuclear, and also CCS is the US system. And the general policy of for the mitigation action is that we need to establish the carbon pricing mechanism, which include the cap and trade, cap and tax, and also result-based payment. Next. And then we also try to share with you about the what stakeholder investment that we have already done. Next. Yeah, actually our team already used this AIM and also end-use model, and also currently still in progress, the CGE, AIM CGE, that we have a contribution to the development of mid or long-term GHG emission reduction scenario analysis for Indonesian energy sector. This is done by working with the National Energy Council, which is under preparation right now. We are updating the national energy policy and net zero emission target in 2060. And then also we support the Ministry of Energy using the IM models. They're using IM models. We are supporting the Ministry of Environment and Forestry to develop the LTS LCCR 2050 and also the roadmap of the NDC. And also we assist the law in the regional level, the sub-national level. We are already use the IM model for the Jakarta, Bali, and also West Java. And also we are using the IM model to assist the education and capacity building. And we also use the IM model for the private companies like oil and gas company, and also mining company, and pulp and paper industries. That's next, please. Yeah, this is some of the documents that we already submit to IPCC, including the LTS RCCR and also the NDC, which is now we are working in for the second NDC. Next. And this is the some of the picture of the submission or to the IPCC. Next. And this is the regional subnational activities for West Java, Jakarta, Bali, and also next. Yeah, this is the our notes or our message to youth generation, that we believe that climate change is real and has begun to show its impact everywhere. Youth generation will face climate change and its impact. So we, the seniors, are the last generation that can change the course of climate change, and we can and we will. For this, we need more involvement of youth generations. We are committed to helping youth generation to take action to protect future our planet. And then we encourage youth generation to raise your voices and climate crisis, and also increase youth activism to increase youth participation to address climate change. And we believe that youth generation have the potential and energy to be involved in NZE in their voice, and also all they need is the opportunity to be included in their voices heard. And then we understand that youth generation needs support from us, the seniors, and also from the governments and society in general, in the forms of various resources and enabling environment. We understand that the government needs to promote meaningful engagement and programs to train young people in net zero emission in their force. Youth participation and activism could be done through education, advocacy campaign, and also through research activities such as in the IM modeling. Next. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ucok-san, thank you very much for this very, very informative presentation. So you introduced the assumption of modeling and also result in detail. And then in the end, you summarized some challenges in Indonesia to achieve the net zero emission in 2060. So we will discuss about the challenges later on.
So here's my brief presentation about the expectation to AIM colleagues. My name is Makoto Kato from the Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center of Japan. Because today's topic is, from my position, I would like to talk about the importance of international cooperation. And I would like to start with addressing some keywords of today's discussion. Of course, for LTS, NDC, national and sectoral mitigation plans, local mitigation plans, well, these are actually the matters what we have already conducted. And then also, I would like to address decision making on scientific evidence, and also need for capacity strengthening through international cooperation. I think this is quite important. And then the thing is that, we have gone through modeling exercise and also planning exercise already for the first round. So I think what we are going to do from now on is that, not only based on the experiences of having the initial round of applying for the modeling, and also the planning on the NDC and Paris compliant front. What we're going to do in future, this is quite important. So I would like to argue all these aspects in today's presentation. As Nishikawa-san of the MOEJ already introduced a very nice range of the program from the Ministry of the Environment. So I would like to supplement with what I have done through the JICA International Cooperation Program. This is sort of like a pre-2020 or preparation for 2020 activities. We have conducted for the low carbon technology assessment to prepare for the Vietnam's for NDC. And then we have identified for the suitable technologies that correspond to the Vietnam's INDC, so that the after this, for the Vietnamese government has been successfully moved into the revision of the law on environmental protection, and also the establishment of the decree number 6 of greenhouse gas emissions reductions that articulates for the sectoral ministries' obligation to reduce greenhouse gases along with these NDCs. And of course, now what they're talking is that the decarbonization. So this is what we call it. We used to call it the low carbon technologies, but now the Vietnamese government is talking about the decarbonization. So this is sort of like a slight change that happens from pre-2020 preparation, and also now we're in the implementation of this kind of NDC strategies. So this is the image of our low carbon technology assessment what we have conducted, but just for your ideas. Now, when it comes to the model applications, we have also extended for the support to the Ho Chi Minh City. Ho Chi Minh City, in line with the national government's efforts, and the local government of the Ho Chi Minh City was planning a Ho Chi Minh Climate Change Action Plan from 2021 to 2030. And then in our team, we have very excellent modelers. Mr. Ochi from Ikonsao participated in the activities. And then we have provided for some scenarios in the context of the Vietnam's national efforts, but that was applied to the local context, so that we have provided information with the scenario development, and then how the Vietnamese cities can reduce greenhouse gases with these scenarios. So that that was actually what our activities. What we want to, based on these activities explanations, I would like to address for this kind of questions for today's discussion. Because we have, as I mentioned, we have already conducted for this kind of activities in the context of NDCs and in the Paris Agreement. Now, I believe there are still growing needs of international, national and local governments for formulating and implementing climate policies based on this scientific evidence, and also continuous update and gradual improvement is quite important because the political momentum has been really accelerating. Of course, as you know, the Vietnamese government already declared, in the Glasgow meeting, the 2050 carbon neutralities. And then last year, they have also released the updated NDCs. So that is quite important. But while our modeling activities and our planning activities, these are somehow we need to renew, and we need to actually update for our implementation context. So that requires probably the continuous collaboration with the community from the modeling exercise. And then in the bottom, I also would like to address, there could be some cycle of actions. Scientific research for this is quite important. And then that links to the policy development. And the policy needs to be, policies and plans need to be implemented and then monitored and reviewed. And there should be a feedback from the current implementation lessons learned and also technology improvement. Now you see in the current context of 2022 and 2023, now the government and the local government, they're talking about the application of really cutting edge technologies or energy transitions. Well, they even talk about JET-P, those kind of things. How can we accommodate this kind of discussion in our future planning and implementation? That is the area I believe that modelers can help us. So this is the thing I would like to put on the table. And then I hope through the international cooperation, AIM modeling team, and also in Asian countries, we can be sort of like an engine of this kind of discussion and of this kind of cycle that we go through continuously. So I would like to stop for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kato-san, thank you very much for introducing your experience and especially sharing your experience about the JICA for low carbon technology assessment in Vietnam, and also some proposals to the modeling. So we will discuss later on with Johnson and also with us, which you pointed out. Okay, on to the discussion part. So, okay, thank you very much for those presentations and discussion part. So first round of discussion, I would like to ask the Jiang-san and Ucok-san some request from the Kato-san. Kato-san, Jiang-san, and Ucok-san, can you turn on your video? And Kato-san, can you show your slide once again?
Okay.
About expectation to the modeling. So
okay, just a moment, please.
So before I take some questions from the audience, then first round I would like to discuss among presenters and discussant.
Here you go.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. So this is the point which mentioned by Kato-san, especially about the growing needs of national and local government for the capacity to formulate and implement the climate policies based on our calculations, the modeling work. And then there might be some importance to do some circulation among the science research and the policy development and so on. So this is the one some comment from Kato-san. Then I would like to ask Jiang-san and Ucok-san to respond to some the general question based on those questions, expectations. Can you respond some your ideas based on your experience in China and Indonesia? Okay, firstly, can you invite Jiang-san? how do you tackle or can respond? Jiang-san, are you here? Oh, if no, okay, Ucok-san, do you have any comments to respond to the request or questions from international cooperation mentioned by Kato-san here?
About about the international cooperation, of course, it is a good idea that we will need, you know, the more close discussion, and also to formulate what is the necessary action after we got the discussion. I think we will continue to do that through the different groups of activities, like using the IM as a network. I think that will be good for every participant, every member of the AIM, and also the you know, the most recent development of each country, and also we can learn each other from experience, whether for the long term and also the current situation, because when we talk about future, we need also to consider the recent development and also the achievement of this various type of you know, policies, and also introduction of new technology, and also introduction of measures by different governments. Different country will have different response. I think that is good to discuss in the events like workshop, or in the training in you know, the Asia community. Thank you.
Okay, yes. The different country has different the issues. So in order to tackle those issues, then it is good to it is necessary to keep communicating each other. I agree with you. So, okay. And the next, I would like to pick up the interaction questions. So, okay, Ucok-san mentioned about the many challenges in Indonesia. So you analyzed the net zero emissions towards net zero emissions pathways towards 2060. Yes, but you can analyze in the model, and then you showed some barriers. But I have the questions to the Kato-san. So in order to tackle with such barriers, then do you have any ideas to solve such issues and barriers from the viewpoint of international cooperation, or anything based on your experience? Yes.
Thank you very much. I think generally everybody agrees that for the interaction between the policy side and the science side, well, this is important. But I think when it comes to policy, well, it's not just only about the planning policy. For example, there are policies for the research and development of technologies, for example. Huge investment is necessary, not only for the actual investment for the infrastructure, but also like R&D, how we can reduce the cost of currently very high cost technologies. So that is actually probably one of the bottleneck for us to realize, for us to move on to the decarbonization, for example. But we have witnessed with some technologies in the past. I mean, accidentally, they have the cost of the some technologies have been dramatically reduced. But also there are probably future necessity by the policy to take the lead of the, for example, the R&D and also reduction of costs for some technologies that are necessary for us to tackle emissions reduction, for example. So this also applies to maybe finance side. I think Dr. Ucok mentioned a lots of insightful words. I actually catched. I caught some of your comments from your own presentation. So that I think what we need to learn a lot from the modeling exercise, but what we need to do is to reflect on those kind of insight to different aspects of policy making and policy implementation. And it's not only about the planning, but it's more on the, but it's also for other exercise, for example, R&D, finance, and also the markets creation or those kind of things. So this is and the international cooperation and also the private sector driven investment. Well, that probably helps a lot. Well, if we can drive this kind of efforts in future. So this is my response. Thank you.
Okay, Kato-san, thank you very much for answering here based on your experience. Okay, then Jiang-san, are you here?
He may drop, so.
Okay, okay, so let's continue. Okay, so let's wait. Jiang-san will come back. Okay, another round between the presenters and the discussant. Let's before we move on to some questions by audience. Okay, after I listened to detailed presentation by Ucok-san and Jiang-san, and also some point mentioned by Kato-san, then I have some gaps between the researchers and also the policymakers, especially, for example, from the viewpoint of international cooperative, organizers. So I have a question to Kato-san. And the next I will ask a same question to Ucok-san. So what type of informations are very much useful to push the international cooperations? Because the Jiang-san mentioned about the multi-objective issues, and also the Ucok-san shows the very detailed information by sector or energy or and so on. So, but if you have too many informations, and then it may be difficult to pick up the main issues to discuss with the appropriate actors. Yes. So yes, based on your experience, then what kind of expectations do you have to the researchers, the modelers, to give the information, appropriate information to you? So that is second, yes, another direct question.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that actually recently happens. Quite recently happened from my counterpart. There is a special request to receive the sort of like a policymaker summary. Of course, modelers and scientists for you probably want to clarify the assumption and also the conditions of understanding, and then also sort of the framework. Without that, well, probably it's very uncomfortable for the scientists to address something. However, from the policymakers' perspective, well, they don't have much time to understand for the entire part or the detail, so that they really want to have 3 bullets for them accurately understand what the scientists are addressing. Of course, we don't really want to exaggerate for the results of science research, but some of them are ready to reflect on the science research result or outputs. And then they are really eager to do that. But if it comes with a very long story or a long thesis, for example, probably it is probably very difficult for them to take digest for things. So it could be very nice if there are someone who can be take the role of an interpreter. Of course, scientists will themselves can interpret scientific languages into policies and planning languages. However, if it's too difficult, well, there should be somebody who can do that. So I think I recently it recently happens to me when we were working with some local governments people. But the thing is that, well, they're not reluctant to take the result. Well, they're willing to take the result, but they really need to reflect for what their science research made into their policy dimension. So that's actually the bridge we're expecting somehow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Your comment, Kato-san. Then I would like to ask the Ucok-san. So in the end of your presentation, you said that you summarized the in one brochure, some brochures. Then it's kind of like a policymaker summary, which Kato-san mentioned. Then my question to Ucok-san is that, so when you communicate with policymakers or the stakeholders by using that summaries, then what kind of effort you take, and what kind of points you paid attention to, and what kind of difficulties or the barriers you felt to communicate with the policymakers, and how to solve it. So can you explain your experience? Yes, your experience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hanaoka-san. Actually, we have a lot of experience in stakeholders engagement in this area, especially in the Ministry of Forestry and also Ministry of Energy, and also the latest one is the National Energy Council. Actually, they are very, very critical about what will result of our study, and also they raise a lot of questions that at the moment not all of them can be answered by our model. That's why we continuously learning about how to improve the model, and also especially related to the economic modeling, because they are always asking about what will be. This is nice to see the mitigation, but of course there will be implication about the cost and also the impact of the national economy. And also we also showed the opportunity, not only the impact, but also we also discussed about the opportunity. For example, when we are working with the EVs, electric vehicle developments, maybe one opportunity is that we can develop the resources like the nickel-based battery, and also opportunity on that area. So actually, we still need to improve our model, and also to specifically indicating the target of the specifically learning about how to answer the question related to economy, because I think that will be we will be able to answer better after we learning about the CGE modeling that we just learned in the last month with Maasui sensei. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for sharing your experience. Then it is good to know your experience. Okay, Maasui-san, is it better to ask the Utabutsu-san to invite, or he's not here?
He may not.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue our discussions. Okay. Then, before we close the session 1, then I would like to take some questions from the audience. We can see the chat box. One question to Indonesia. So the Ucok-san, so you presented the pathways to achieve the net zero emission in Indonesia, but at the same time, you pointed out some various other issues. Then one question is that what is the probability to achieve the goal? It is quite difficult to answer this question, but if you are asked by policymakers, then how do you respond?
Yeah, thank you very much. I read from Mr. Peter King about the the opportunity, I mean, about the probability of achieving the goal by 2060. Roughly, if I have to answer this question, that maybe around 70%, 80% we can do that. Of course, under some conditions, right? Like what I mentioned in the past. And the last point in my presentation about the international cooperation, because as I said, this is will require a lot of investment, and then we don't have that amount of money to do that. And then because at the same time we are also require capital for other agenda. Yeah, so that's why one of the key of the success will be international cooperation. Yeah, in terms of financing, and also in terms of cooperation for the technology, like technology transfer, etc. That I think that will improve the probability to get to achieve this net zero emission target in 2060. And also for the case of Indonesia, of course, it's not net zero. It's not only energy, but also other sectors like the IPPU and also waste sector, which also contributes significant emission in Indonesia. Yeah. And also besides that, it's also volume sector. Although the volume sector already targeting the net sink since 2030, but I think if we continue, we need to utilize also the forest sector. That's why we need to discuss about this also with the volume sector. So not only energy to achieve the net zero, but also we have to think another sector also. Thank you.
Okay, Ucok-san, thank you very much, and welcome back, Jiang-san. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Some technical trouble for me. So
okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, I just follow instruction from Hanaoka-san and try to answer Kato-san's several general questions. I think for me, the understanding is the zero carbon technology in some area is getting to be a lowest cost. Right? So on one hand, we should push more policy awareness in many given countries. On the other hand, seems we got more and more technical trouble. For example, in 2020, Vietnam have 12 gigawatt newly installed capacity for solar PV, but they are great, not yet ready. That's the reason why they suddenly decrease their future installed capacity for solar PV. So we really need from modeling viewpoint, we really need to design a whole energy system. For example, even I think in Nepal, in Pakistan, in India, in Vietnam, the lowest cost is solar PV and wind. But our big trouble is how to understand the whole system to get change. So for me, maybe the target for 2030, 2050 is no more important. And we should think about how to help them to do the whole energy system transition from today. For example, in Nepal, maybe electric motorcycle or electric bicycle is the best option for them. It also including Indonesia. But the whole system is that they need charging station or green electric supply. So this is maybe our modeling team will work together for next phase to contribute to policymakers like Kato-san and some other countries' policymakers. I finish here. Thank you. I'm sorry for the technical trouble.
Okay. Thank you very much for the answer. Yes. Okay, and we are going to finish by 3:30, and I'm sorry about this internet connection troubles, but I hope we enjoyed the presentation and discussions. And before we close, then each of you, so if you have any comments, especially about we have a couple of barriers and issues like social barriers, economic barriers, technological barriers, and also the institutional barriers. Then in order to tackle with those barriers between the communicating between the modeling team and also the policymakers, then if you have any last comment, comment or request, then please point out in last 1 minute. Okay, so one by one. Okay, for example, Kato-san, yes, can
Yes,
we start?
yeah,
Yes,
well,
thank you very much.
you laid out for the lots of homework we have. But I think now we are very clear about the homework. It's not about the simple technology options or a simple suggestion about scenario. Well, it's the reality is actually a little more complicated. But I think with the complication of the reality, well, we have the clear image, clear idea about how we can and to what extent we can reduce those barriers. So that is actually immediate response for us to move on to the realization of the decarbonization in a longer term. So that is actually yeah, well, the role of domestic efforts, of course, as a first hand, but also the international cooperation with that actually will give a strong backup for Asian countries. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kato-san, thank you very much. Okay, じゃあ、ジャンさん、last comment from your side.
Yes, I think it's a really big opportunity for us to work together. Many Asian countries, I think we have a very big opportunity, not only for the carbon neutral, but also think about the future of our economy. It's a very big opportunity to promote the economic activities. Okay, I finish here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ucok-san, last comment from your
thank
side.
you very much. I will just comment about the role of the stakeholder engagement, especially in our modeling. Because now the policymakers are also getting smarter, so we have to increase our credibility to be able to answer their questions. That's why we need to continue to improve the modeling system so that we can answer and also answer the question, and also increase the credibility of the model itself. This is important because otherwise they will not trust our model, and also they will, not using scientific approach for the decision. And I think it's necessary for us to continuously to improve the model and also the capacity of the modelers to do this. And I think we will need help cooperation between in different modelers, and also with the NIES and also other countries to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. From the modeling side, yes, we need to improve our quality of modeling. Yes, to get the trust from the policymakers. Yes, I agree with you. Okay, thank you very much. All discussions and presentations. Yes, and we would like to close this session 1, and I will return the floor to the NIES. Okay, thank you very much.
Dr. Hanaoka, thank you also for the panelists for such a very impressive discussions. I would like to ask all participants to give a big applause to the panelists, and we are also apologize for such several technical problems. So we still have another interesting sessions, but before that, we would like to have a short break, and for the next sessions, the session 2, we'll start at 3:45, so 15:45. And please come back to the venue, to the forum after that. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the forum. Now, we would like to start the session 2. Similar to the first session, this session will consist of 2 case studies and a panel discussion. The theme of this session is AIM as Policy Support Tools. This session will be facilitated by Dr. Yosuke Arino, researcher and project leader, Mitigation and Adaptation Integration Strategic Management Office, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. So we would like to invite the chair of this session, Dr. Arino, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marisa, for your introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your joining this session 2. The session title is AIM as a Policy Support Tool. It is a great honor for me to be able to chair this important session. I'd like to share my slide to briefly explain the details and the summary and overview how this session will go. Compared to session 1, session 2 will more focus on the AIM as a policy support tool. In other words, a nexus between the policy and science will be pursued further. So expectations from climate policy making process. And I will be the chair. And as a case studies, we invite two speakers from Malaysia and Thailand. I will introduce later on. And also we have invited 3 speakers as discussants to give their feedback to the presenters. And AIM is expected to play a role as a policy tool by providing quantitative information for the national development long-term strategies, as well as a local area or a local level strategy. So here's my introduction. As a background of this, my chair, I want to highlight the recent works that is being done in collaboration with the ASEAN Secretariat. Now, I'm the program manager of the ASEAN Climate Change Strategic Action Plan until 2030, as Ms. Nishikawa from MOEJ, Japan, has kindly introduced. And this is ongoing project. And also, we are working on the development of the methodology for synergizing long-term mitigation and adaptation transition to achieve the long-term goal for climate neutral and resilient society. Lastly, ASEAN State of Climate Change report was published 2 years ago in close collaboration with the ASEAN Secretariat and 10 member states of the ASEAN. So today, I'd like to just briefly mention the ASEAN's GHG emission pathways. The ASEAN State of Climate Change Report Section 3 introduced the findings from the scientific tools, in other words, integrated assessment models from the world, including AIM model. As you can see, the global 1.5 degree target calls for ASEAN to achieve a net zero CO2 emission in 2050, while ASEAN needs to achieve a net zero GHG emission in 2065. And the AIM model played a significant role for us to discuss with the policymakers to achieve our long-term goal for the ASEAN. And this is a qualitative description of long-term climate goals shown in ASCCR. So as you can see, mitigation goal includes net zero GHG emissions as early as possible in the latter half of the 21st century. There's a width, and a peaking GHG emissions as soon as possible after 2030. And especially for the adaptation goal, the adaptation transition should be synergized with a mitigation net zero transition, underpinned by the development goal and also the goal for synergizing adaptation and mitigation. This session will go like this. So outline of session 2 starts with the presentation, 2 presentations from the 2 presenters from Malaysia and Thailand, and 30 minutes. And after that, we move on to the panel discussion. Firstly, 3 short presentations will be given by discussants, and expectations and desires for the model community will be presented. And lastly, we will be having discussion on the contribution of the AIM and its new direction to support decarbonization policies. If time allows, we hope to invite some floor questions in a last Q&A session. Thank you. This is all from my side. So I hope to introduce the first presenter. So to begin with, I'd like to introduce Professor Dr. Chin-Sin Ho at the Department of the Urban Regional Planning at the Faculty of Built Environment Surveying, University of Technology, Malaysia, UTM. Dr. Ho, Professor Ho, floor is yours. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Let me share my slide first. Okay, very good afternoon. I hope you can see my slide now.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, my name is Ho Chin Siong, as introduced, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this 8th NIES International Forum. And the topic of my discussion today will be basically from pathway to decarbonize Malaysian cities using Asia Pacific integrated model. So as you can see, this is from the urban perspective, not at a national perspective. it started from 2011 when UTM, or University Technology Malaysia, was funded by Japanese government under STEP project, or we call it Science and Technology Partnership for Sustainable Development, to develop a low carbon society scenario for developing countries in Asia region. So you can see that actually there are two main objectives under this project. One is to draw up key policies and strategies. Basically, the aim is to transform Iskandar Malaysia into a sustainable low carbon metropolis. And the second objective is to respond to the national aspiration of ensuring a climate resilient development for sustainability. So with that, actually, UTM lead the Malaysian researchers to collaborate with a team of Japanese scientists, namely Kyoto University, National Institute of Environmental Studies, NIES, and Okayama universities, to conduct this research in Iskandar Malaysia. And Iskandar Malaysia was chosen because it's one of the fastest growing region in Asia in the 2010-2020. And this project is mainly funded by JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and Japan Science and Technology, or JST. And this project actually have four main output. One is methodology. Basically, we have to develop a kind of the scenario, how this scenario could be used. And secondly, the scenario, low carbon society scenario. And thirdly, a co-benefit of a low carbon society policies. And finally, to disseminate and propagate this approach to other ASEAN countries. So if you look at this slide, it really shows the first one is a scientific methodology. Basically, to develop the database and model ready for this AIMS application. And it is important to have this scientific methodology because we hope that this so-called exercise could be used or referred by other cities, other than Malaysian cities. We hope that it can also use in other ASEAN cities. And the development of these supporting tools for designing and managing LCS scenario cover several so-called sub tools or sub projects like extended snapshot model, ESSS, action reference database we have to develop, work breakdown structure, action specification card, kind of a design structure metric, and as well as this so-called effort toward quantifying target for each action, and finally a kind of backcasting tools to be applied to the to obtain the output for the cities. Then we work out a low carbon society scenario for policy development based on national target. In this case, the Malaysian national target was 45% emission intensity reduction by the year of 2030, and this will be used as a reference for the city target as well. And it's also important here to understand a summary of potential mitigation option, especially in the sector of energy, transportation, waste, and lifestyle changes sector. And then by understanding the demand and supply side, we can model the potential reduction for the cities, and that will be used as a guide for our target setting for the cities. As you can see here, using the case of Iskandar, Malaysia, the modeling results are then shared with policymakers and public to have a consensus on the target or the vision of the cities. And especially, we need several engagement. I think like what just now Ucok-san mentioned in the case of Indonesia, community engagement, capacity buildings are always important because that would able to allow us to have a better understanding and of course from the stakeholders on the drivers and the potential GHG reduction initiative. By using the ESS model, we can estimate, in this case, Iskandar Malaysia, the base year is about 11.4 million ton. And using the model, we can do a projection, a simulation of 31.3 million ton under BAU situation by the year of 2025. And then we also can do a simulation or a projection of 18.9% million ton of carbon under we call countermeasure situation. So this will give us some quantitative target for us to discuss with the policymakers and the stakeholders. In the case of Iskandar Malaysia, we work out with them so that we can group our so-called initiatives or actions based on a triple baseline theme. In this case, like economy, green community, and green environment. So which we would able to break down the target reduction given by action as well as by theme. Yeah, this slide shows a more detailed discussion on the documentation. I think for all policymakers, the important thing is other than all this monitoring result, it is important for us to have an official document. From the monitoring result, we convert this into, we call it low carbon society blueprint action report, where this will be useful for policymakers to be used as a quick reference for all policy decision, especially by the local authorities, as well as to be referred by the private sectors, the business communities in that region. So as I mentioned just now, the so-called three action we have here under the green economy, we cover transport, green industry, governance, green building, and green energy system. And under the second theme, green community, it's important also to cover low carbon lifestyle, community engagement, and community building. And the third sector is the green environment, which is talking more on about walkable city, smart growth, green and blue infrastructure, sustainable waste management, and clean air and environment. The other important part of this output is we need to position this so-called new report or low carbon society blueprint for Iskandar Malaysia within the context of existing so-called national, state, as well as local development policies, so that this plan would be able to be mainstream into the development plan and it become easier for statutory implementation. Then the next question is how to make this low carbon society to be implemented at the ground level. We need to prepare a so-called a roadmap. In this case, a roadmap is where we specify actually the activities, but what and who to do it, and when to do it. So meaning to say that the 12 actions are converted into projects and programs. We need to identify a very detailed programs. In this case, we have about 281 programs to be implemented by the year of 2025. So you can see that since Iskandar Malaysia have 5 local authorities, it is again important for us to make sure that the blueprint be able to be implemented at the local authorities levels. So again here, we have to make sure that this plan are closer to people or implementers. That is by development of so-called low carbon society action plan for 5 local authorities, as shown in this slide. In this 5 so-called action plan, we have first local authorities is Kulai Jaya, second is Pontian, third Johor Bahru, fourth is Pasir Gudang, and fifth is Iskandar Putri. And each of these so-called local authorities would have detailed monitoring result as well as policies, so that each mayors would know what are the target, what are the initiatives that to be carried out. So just now we do have the so-called regional level, Iskandar level. We move down to the city level. And again, this is also important that it has to be documented in the kind of action plan. And here we developed 5 action plan, so-called action plan for low carbon society. And then each action plan will have their own so-called unique vision in line with their development vision, plus the monitoring result. So in the case, I just say, like for instance, the first local authorities, the mayor will be focusing on vibrant world-class cosmopolitan of the South. Second, we'll be talking about livable cities and creative innovation belt because of their so-called unique development opportunities. In the case of Pasir Gudang, a very highly industrialized area, their local authorities will focus more on the green and clean industrial port cities. And in the case of Kulai, where they have a big international airport, we will focus on smart integrated logistic hub. And finally, one of the local authorities, very much rural based, they will focus on clean energy and agriculture biodiversity. So as a summary, I must say that in Malaysia, we strongly promote aims under this so-called Science to Action, or S2A, whereby we emphasize that the policies that we develop or the actions that we develop has to be implementable, scientific rooted because of the modeling, and it has to be people-centric. I think the community engagement is equally important. And the other important aspect which need to be highlighted, I think Malaysia as a developing countries, decoupling, decarbonizing with emphasizing on economic growth are important. We do hope that economic growth will continue, but with a much reduced carbon reduction. And up to date, actually, our center, working very closely with NIES and IGES and Sabre Japanese University, we have done more than 15 cities in Malaysia, and we are hoping to contribute to this 45% reduction in terms of reduction in intensity by the year of 2030 and carbon neutrality by the year of 2050. And this AIMS model is not only applied to the cities, but we are also doing capacity building as well as workshop in our university as a classroom teaching. This slide clearly shows that the example of Iskandar, Malaysia, have shown that the importance of integrating people, where community engagement is important. The institutions are equally important, and the application of science, whereby in this case is the AIMS modeling, and then the policy direction as well as action. So we have to go through this whole process to make so-called the application of the modeling to be from science to policies and policies to action. So these are some of the results that we have done since 2009. We have been working closely with NIES, IGES, with the application of AIMS modeling, and we are hoping to continue working on this to contribute to this carbon neutral Malaysia by 2050. And from our experience, our earlier work on self-stripe, we have moved into beyond Iskandar, Malaysia. We have taken the case of the capital city of Kuala Lumpur. I think as mentioned by just now Nishikawa-san on the working of Kuala Lumpur together with Tokyo Metropolitan Government at Saitama. We have also involved in that project, and we have do a modeling using AIMS model. In this case, we prepared two plans. One, we call it a low carbon society blueprint for Kuala Lumpur, using the tagline of 70 by 30, meaning to say 70% reduction by the year of 2030. And we have specifically worked out a kind of carbon neutral growth center for Wangsa Maju in Kuala Lumpur. And these are examples of the application of AIMS model to illustrate to the mayor of Kuala Lumpur how the pathway of Kuala Lumpur if you want to achieve carbon neutrality. And other than that, we also have moved into other specific cities. In this case, we have worked on the federal capital of Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, and Pengerang. This is another unique refinery and petroleum integrated development area in Johor. We call it Pengerang Low Carbon Society Blueprint 2030, and Johor specific Royal Town, the Moa district local plan using the model of AIMS model, and another agriculture town, Skamat 2030. And all these are done during the past few years. And of course, the most recent one is the updated low carbon society blueprint for Iskandar, Malaysia 2030. So with that, I would like to make a conclusion, lesson learned from this, lesson learned from this city level decarbonization. One is that the GSG modeling application, scientific research is the cornerstone to policy making, and it also helped to ensure effective implementation of LCS policy in realizing GSG emission. Secondly, I think the top-down with the highest level policy maker support are important. We have been working very closely with all the mayors, and it helps to expedite the LCS science to action. Secondly, the bottom-up with the progressive, inclusive stakeholders buy-in. This is another important for acceleration of this LCS transition. And the other point is the joint research. In this case, whether it's local or international, like our case, working closely with NIES and IGES certainly are important, contributing to this so-called low carbon society or carbon neutral cities. And the other one is on the community part of it is the development of low carbon society. Lifestyle change is a way forward to a strong sustainable cities. And ultimately, I think the most important is I think all cities are keen to act now so that the project visibilities to public are a key important and the key motivation for the people as well as the mayors. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ho, about your holistic and very detailed research activities over the last 10 to 15 years. Thank you. And at the city level, Iskandar case, and also municipality level, downgrading of downscalings of such modeling techniques, and to develop the long-term roadmap. It is very impressive. So I think that this knowledge and the experiences can be shared later on in the discussion session. Thank you. So next, I'd like to invite Dr. Bundit Limekakchai, Associate Professor at Shinridon International Institute of Technology, Thammasat University, Dr. Bundit, floor is yours.
Thank you, Arino-san. Yeah, thank you, Arino-san. Good afternoon from Thailand. In this session, I would like to present how Thailand achieved setting the target of net zero emission by 2050. Next slide. So, in the year 2021 and 2022, Thailand already announced the target for long-term strategy. And in the COP27, we revise the long-term strategy and NDC. Here are the updated one. First is for carbon neutrality, we set the target by the year 2050. And for net zero emission, net zero means net zero greenhouse gas emission, we set by 2065. Of course, to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 and net zero greenhouse gas by 2065, we need to update NDC. So this is the reason that why the Thai government announced that the NDC that Thailand submit since Paris Agreement 2015. Now we have to increase ambition for GHG mitigation to 40%. 40% mean in the year 2030, so that by the year 2050, Thailand can achieve carbon neutrality, and by the year 2065, Thailand can achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission. Next slide. Here are the national plan, the existing plan that we use in analysis. First is Thailand already have 20-year national strategy plan up to the year 2037. Second, you see the left column. Second, Thailand already have climate change master plan that already launched in the year 2015. Next is we already have NDC sectoral plan. NDC sectoral plans since we submit Paris Agreement and we set up NDC roadmap. And in the middle column, you see we are now using the 12 national economic social development plan. In fact, it's already finished by the end of 2031. Due to the National Economic Social Development Plan, the 13 version, we need to update to comply with carbon neutrality 2050 and net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2065. So at this moment, even the year 2023, we still do not announce the new plan. Next is the NAMA that already finished. We already finished NAMA tracking and submit the success of NAMA tracking in terms of GHG mitigation by 2020 to UNFC that already appear in Thailand biannual update report or BUR number 4, or we call BUR 4. You can download from UN website. And the right column, we go quickly. The right column is the policy and plan for enhancement and conservation of natural environment quality in the Ministry of Monley. And also NDC, and the last is updated long-term low emission development strategy. Next slide. This is Thailand NDC roadmap that we use since we submit INDC in Paris Agreement. However, last year in the COP27, we update NDC so that the updated NDC show that Thailand GHG mitigation by the year 2030 will be 40%. That is equivalent to 222 million tons. The sector cover energy, transport, waste, IPVU, in addition, agriculture and other sector also, LULUCF also included in the updated NDC. Next slide. So this is ND sectoral action plan. You can see that mainly energy sector by Energy Planning Policy or EPPO office, and second is the transport sector by OTP, Office of Transport Planning and Policy, waste sector by Pollution Control Department of PDC, and IPPU mainly cement industry by Department of Industrial Work. Next slide. This slide show you how Thailand employ a model in national level. So you can see that we use both NIES and MCGE. You can see that the four diagrams start from the left hand side. That means we have to identify driving factor, population, GDP, price of energy, characteristic of technology, efficiency, emission factor, discount rate, and so on. Okay, and input to end-use model. End-use model, you also need existing policy that I already described, that we use mitigant policy from the government in all sectors. Result from end-use, we just make soft link to CGE. So the bottom part, you see, we use MCG model to assess macroeconomic impact. So we present in terms of GDP law, or change in GDP, change in welfare, household and government consumption, sectoral production, finally carbon pie. In FNU, we present in terms of fuel mix in a primary energy and fuel mix in power generation, which is very important that government will use this information for setting power development plan in the future. Next slide. So this slide show you MCGE for Thailand. In fact, the format exactly the same as MCGE developed from NIES or M team. We have production box, we have market box, we have expenditure box, we have income box. Okay. In the case of MCGE for Thailand, we have to update all parameters to be consistent with information and socio-economic of Thailand. Next slide. For FNUs, we have to change almost everything. The structure is the same as FNUs of NIES. First, you can see the left column is energy and material. We also have to check the fuel type used in Thailand. The second column is technology. We also have to check the technology that Thailand use in energy system. The service demand the same. We have to check all sector, power generation, building, industry, transport. Okay, and we have to set the end use technology subject to existing information of Thailand. You can see that all information we have to update according to information of the country. Next slide. This slide shows you the power sector of Thailand based on end-use model. You can see the step number 1, the left column. We also have to create the fuel type used in power generation, natural gas, coal, hydro, biogas, biomass, mutual solid waste, wind, solar, and so on. And the middle column is step number 2 for power generation. We also have to check the type of technology that Thailand use in electricity generation. And electricity demand, we also have to use the load forecast that provided by government. Next slide. This slide shows you the building sector for Thailand. We have to modify FNUs to match energy demand, to match technology, and the fuel type in Thailand. You can see that from step number 1, this is the fuel mix used in the building sector. The second is the technology used in building sector for Thailand, and the demand sector also. Step number 3 are the demand used for final demand used in the building sector for Thailand. Next slide. Next slide. This slide shows you manufacturing industry. Back slide 11. Yeah, this is the manufacturing industry for Thailand. Thai government identify manufacturing industry. Here you can see in sub 9 sectors, starting from food, beverage, wood, fabricated metal, non-metallic, textile, paper and pulp, basic metal, chemical, and other 9 industry. Exclude power generation. Power generation. And in each subsector, we also have to see what fuel type, mainly electricity and fossil. Fossil, normally, they are coal, oil, natural gas industry. So we need to know all information. In fact, this information we need to use official because we are working on national level. So the input information must be comply with the government. Otherwise, the government will not accept the result that we make analysis. Next slide. This is transport sector. Transport sector quite simple because we set the mode of transport according to international format: road, rail, water, and air transport. The type of each mode the same as international format. We have passenger, freight, and so on. Okay, next slide. After that, we need think each fuel type, coal, oil, natural gas. When we make combustion, it will become CO2 and other gases. And other sectors such as waste sector, mainly methane, and agriculture sector, some activity generate methane. So we need to convert other gases such as methane, nitrous oxide into CO2. So we employ global warming potential from IPCC. At this moment, according to BUR and NC submission of Thailand, we are using AR4. But in the next 2 years, when Thailand submit BTR1, that is the new one. So Thailand now is planning, shifting or updating for global potential from AR4 to AR5. For AR6, of course, we will use it if they agree in UNFCCC, okay, in negotiation form. Okay, next slide. This is information that we use in calibrating a model. This is very important. You can find out the information from Thailand BUR4 in the reference you see at the bottom. In the reference Thailand BUR4 that submit to UFC in December last few months. You can see that in Thailand biannual update report number 4, you can see that in terms of net emission, even all emission source, increasing from year 2000, the first column, to the middle around 2010. But after 2010, Thailand already have very good national renewable energy development plan. We have very good demand side management plan. We have very good efficiency plan. And currently, we are finishing the mass transit system, especially electric train in the city. So you can see that the net emission almost peak. However, we have to see updated information for the year 2020, 2021. Of course, as you know, during COVID-19 pandemic, since 2019 and 2020, we expect that net emission, of course, if we have information updated, it will decrease. Next slide. One thing is we use abatement cost curve that we have experienced from DAMA. Abatement cost curve, you can see that we have positive and negative. Okay, the negative part, such as efficiency, we can adopt immediately. The positive one, we need to support. Next slide. One information that we use in stakeholder meeting is IPC AR6 from work group number 3 show you there are many options available like by the year 2030 to achieve GHG mitigation. So that's why we present this information during stakeholder meeting. They accept and they agree that such as in energy sector, we can use a lot of solar energy, wind energy to produce electricity. In transport sector, we have very low cost option. Next slide. IPC ASIC also show that building industry sector also have opportunity and many options that many countries can adopt. We use the information in dissemination. Next slide. The same as a follow sector. However, in follow sector, variation is very large. Okay, next slide. Finally, from end-use modeling, we identify that the BAU of Thailand Paris Agreement is 505 by the year 2030. And we identify due to current policy and also updated information, Thailand can achieve GHG mitigation by 30%. So that means emission source that totally will be around 385 by the year 2030. That equivalent to 30%. Or if we receive support by Thai government, so emission can be reduced to 330. However, in this case, it equivalent to 40% of NDC, and the peak will appear by the year 2025 at 368. Next slide. So this slide shows you updated NDC. This information we have to check by the year 2030 so that emission pathway of update NDC comply with carbon neutrality 2050 and comply with the pathway of net zero greenhouse gas emission 2065. Next slide. This is very important that MNU with some support from Hanaoka-san that we can generate abatement cost from output of MNU to show that a lot of negative costs that we adopt immediately. However, some positive costs we select and request the support for international support. Next slide. This is one thing that Thai government promised to increase carbon sink in LULUCF. You can see that according to official information in national communication, carbon sink now increasing almost 100. You can see negative 100 million ton. And Taiwan promised that we try to increase carbon sink up to 120 million ton by the year 2037. That means we'll keep that 120 million ton from 2030 up to 2050 and 65. Next slide. All of this information now, we can conclude that Thailand can achieve carbon neutrality by the year 2050, and Thailand will have peak emission by 2025. This graph shows you only CO2 emission, and by the year 2030, Thailand can achieve NDC of 40% mitigation, and CO2 emission by the year of 2050. You can see the year 2050 that CO2 emission from all sector is equivalent to 100 million ton, which is exactly the same as carbon sink 100 million ton, and net zero, that is net zero CO2. And next slide, when we include other gases, methane, nitrous oxide, you can see that the peak emission of Thailand will appear by the year 2025, which is around 370 million ton. And by the year 2030, or even short, will be equivalent to 333 million ton, which is equivalent to 40% of NDC. And by the year of carbon neutrality 2050, we still have net emission left 64 million ton. This 64 million ton are mainly methane and nitrous oxide. And we will increase emission until 2065. Of course, we are now doing a lot of effort to make net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. Next slide. One thing that we do analysis outside the model is we identify solar PV land use requirement. Did we run calculation outside, such as by the year 2050 for carbon neutrality, we need PV for land requirement about 235 million ton. 235 square kilometer. And by the year 2065, we need the land for solar PV around 269 square kilometer, which is equivalent to around 0.05% of total land, unused land in the country of Thailand. Next slide. This is the timeline for power generation. You can see that finally by the year 2050, Thai government have to increase renewable energy generation more than 60%. Next slide. This is energy in transport sector. You can see that by the year 2035, Thailand will fade out. I would like to say fade out internal combustion engine, because at this moment we are now facing down internal combustion engine vehicle. You can see that the sale of electric vehicle in Thailand since January this year increasing drastically. And by the year 2050, transport sector can contribute to carbon neutrality. Next slide. This is the timeline for industry, only the part of energy. Next slide. This is IPBU sector that cement industry promised to reduce a lot after 2040 when CCS is economically feasible in Thailand. Next slide. This is agriculture sector, very hard to reduce methane. Of course, we hope that by 2050, we can have lifestyle change, especially we change in how we eat. Next slide. This is the waste sector, mainly solid waste and wastewater management, which is not difficult to do mitigation, but very difficult to do adaptation for waste sector in Thailand. Next slide. Finally, we use MCGE to show that if we increase the target to 40%, GDP loss will be around 0.5%. If we use only 30%, GDP loss is around 0.4%. And also we present in terms of government consumption, welfare loss. And finally, government adopt 30% for unconditional NDC. That means additional 10% of NDC will come from international support. Next slide. Finally, we can conclude that a model can be used for policy analysis, especially in terms of climate change mitigation and adaptation. We can do a lot of analysis, especially co-benefit, marginal abatement cost, and identify carbon tax. And of course, aim forum of NIES provide opportunity for young researchers in terms of research and publication. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bundit, for your full description of the sector-wise, very technology-rich models explanation, including end use and the CG models and many other tools, including marginal abatement cost curve and co-benefit analysis potential. So later on, we hope to discuss a little bit more about the co-benefit aspect. How? So thank you very much of two presenters. We'd like to move on to the next session, the latter half of this session two, the panel discussion. The panel discussion, we start by inviting three discussants from the policy arena. First presenter is from the ASEAN Secretariat, the second in the government of Laos, and the last leader research collaboration, the specialist from the IGES. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Won-sok, Head of Environmental Division and Assistant Director of the Sustainable Development at the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Department of the ASEAN Secretariat. Dr. Won-sok, the floor is yours. If possible, would you limit your presentation within around 5 minutes? Sorry for this limitation.
Thank you very much. I think I'll take the floor first. I would like to express our sincere thanks to the NIES and also to the IGES that extend the invitation to ASEAN Secretariat and myself. I mean, this is a great opportunity that ASEAN Secretariat can learn about this sort of sound science and academic sort of research and advanced thinking that allow us to understand and make ourselves engage in this sort of conversation and prepare to support the ASEAN member states. And also, I would like to extend my high appreciation also to ASEAN member states. I mean, Malaysia, the Professor Ho, and also from Thailand. That it's really from the scientific community engaged closely with the country, and also Indonesia. I forgot to mention from the University of the Technology of Bandung. So I think this is all important contribution of the scientific community, and So for myself, I would like to present a quick, let me see. I'm just sorry for that because, okay, good. So I just would like to give the presentation quick on this sort of 4 subject matter. It just give you a quick glimpse on the social environmental issue in ASEAN and what's about ASEAN, and then ASEAN cooperation and climate change toward decarbonization in ASEAN and key message. So I think some of previous speaker already highlight some of the issue and some of the country contact, city contact, as well as the cooperation with different partners, particularly with Japan. I mean, in terms of different sort of project and program and so on. So I may not go in detail because some of those things already highlighted by our previous speaker. So I think, as you may know, it's population is one of the main driving sort of forces, and also economic activity, as well as the quality of life and environment that we need to make different. And also ASEAN member state as a part of contracting party of the UNFCCC Paris Agreement and so on. So we are, you know, shoulder with the international commitment with this endeavor. So. And this really a benefit to ASEAN sort of member state in terms of adaptation to the climate change and risk management for the future. As you can see, this is the scenario for the Southeast Asian region that's going to be also a recent impact due to the climate change. So what is about ASEAN? I think, as you may have noted, I mean, from many of the presentation about ASEAN, I mean, ASEAN established in 1967 with the clear purpose to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and cultural development in the region, and also promote regional peace, stability, and so on. So climate change, it plays an important role in that sort of, you know, to make sure ASEAN achieve this sort of main objective. So ASEAN consists of 10 member state countries, and with a term of involvement or accession different terms. So ASEAN, led by this sort of ASEAN 2025 Virginia, had together as a member state present different sort of strategic plan and action and so on. This the mother document to guide our success and other implementation. With that, ASEAN really addressed in 3 different sort of blueprint, political security blueprint, where's the foundation as well, and then economic, where it's you know, address the economic and development activity. However, the environment and climate change sit importantly in the social cultural community blueprint, and also for the narrowing gap initiative from the work plan 3 that try to support the Mekong country, where we can accelerate the action to be in line with the sort of the whole ASEAN's centrality. So this about ASEAN social cultural blueprint that I just highlight. It just, you know, with that it consists by main characteristic. It's about engage and benefit people, inclusive, sustainable, resilient, and dynamic. So with that, I think it's clear spell out about the ASEAN recognize the importance of environment cooperation toward the sustainable development. And you can find out this material from the website, as well as the environment at glance for ASEAN cooperation on environment. So I just give you a quick sort of glance at this point, but if you want, you can look at that in detail. Now, talking about ASEAN cooperation on climate change toward decarbonization in ASEAN. So, I mean, from that sort of blueprint, ASEAN have these 7 sort of priority area, which is nature-based nature conservation, biodiversity, up to environmental education, sustainable consumption, production, where we believe this all contribute to the need of ASEAN. In order to achieve that priority, we have this sort of institutional framework of ASEAN cooperation on environment that led by the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Environment, and the senior official and 7 working group, which is in charge for each of the priority area. While the climate change is under the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change, that they have this core thematic areas, so 8 thematic areas, address the need of ASEAN. I mean, look from the adaptation, planning, long-term planning, mitigation, climate modeling, MOEJ, and so on. So with that, I think the the M model really fit into that sort of core theme of ASEAN Working Group action plan. So this I would like to share with you quick about ASEAN initiative toward decarbonization, but it's not inclusive or exclusive all the initiative, but I just highlight some of the key initiatives that contribute important to this sort of decarbonization process. I mean, one of the things you may have known about investment framework for the haze-free sustainable land use management. Along the side, they have also the ASEAN peatland management strategy development that ongoing as well, and also the new roadmap development, where we believe we can contribute to haze-free ASEAN region. The second important, I mean, Dr. Arino-san just mentioned about the state of climate change report, as well as the other colleague also present, Junko, about this. This quite important juncture of ASEAN that we have to reflect our way forward, how we can do better. And with the natural sort of based solution, I think investing in natural capital report is provide a key recommendation where we can promote nature-based solution and build more resilient recovery sort of process for ASEAN. So all of this is really try to give you some snapshot, but of course a number of the key policies such as the circular economy framework and so on, and also a blue economy declaration, all that contribute to that decarbonization as well, that ASEAN take the leading role. And among other, this is about all the things that are specific to climate change, about MOEJ that Junko just mentioned, and also the other carbon pricing, also the way that we look forward, this sort of the market-based and economic instrument can be play important role. Here, just that of climate change report, as you may see the climate change report produced, it based on this sort of the process of M as well, that the way we try to see the current status and then the vision 2030 and pathway to 2050, where identify some of the key aspects, among other, I can highlight about the transparency and the transformative sort of action in ASEAN that we need to make a difference. So I may not go this detail, this have been presented. And I'm just highlight this on the mitigation side. As you can see, I mean, this is presented by our lead and developed by our IGES colleague, I mean, Dr. Arino-san, and also with the national think tank from all ASEAN member states. They identify these 4 key elements quite important to make ASEAN more engaged, more achieve our target, acquaint, and then also they integrate, involve, and motivate. That all that 4 elements need to be reflected in our pathway, ASEAN pathway. So this is the detailed pathway for your reference. In the meantime, I mean, during the last development, I mean, ASEAN also in the process of development, ASEAN Center for Climate Change. That is the way also, I think, in line with this sort of international forum where we can see the research and sound science and sound science interface with the sort of practice and policy. It's quite important contribute to ASEAN this to fill the gap, whatever the uncertainty and unknown area. So with that aim of the center to get a better understanding of AMF priority and so on, and also to support AMF from the data information, as well as the best approach or best way how to implement, how to accelerate climate action. So I would like to go short. I mean, just share with you all, sorry. ASEAN is committed toward decarbonization and just transition as stipulated in Community Vision 2025. I mean, as you may have known, I mean, from the key message also from Indonesia, I mean, and also other countries, we still need to develop our region toward, people and society needs. So in the way we do that, we have to accountable also our action for our climate, commitment, including the greenhouse gas reduction and so on. So I think with that, I can see some benefit. I mean, a concrete example from the Malaysia sort of case that the scope is very limited, but inclusive. So I may see this sort of aim may wish to also apply during the development of ASEAN Climate Change Strategy Action Plan. Similarly, I mean, to advance further from what have been carried out with the State of Climate Change Report, where we can reflect a different sort of development, including the the regional and global sort of context, this including political issue that, in Ukraine or that change the supply chain, as well as, the pandemic issue or any other thing that can come along with the ASEAN outlook, Indo-Pacific, and so on. That all this can be influence also our future plan. I think I also have this sort of similar view with other as well about the capacity building and replicate this M model to support AMA to further accelerate action, because the M is really right now just limited apply to a certain country, but not really further apply across the board yet. So this may be need to apply across the board, across the sector as well as the city. With that, I think it's the fundamental issue from what I understand the presentation. I think the data information is really important in order to provide sound analysis and a conclusion or guiding this sort of planning and decision. So I hope this sort of later on can provide guidance on the required data information and its management, how to make use this M. I mean, that's the way we have to prepare and align our effort as well. With that, we believe this is not only contribute to the scientific or academia sort of a group, but also contribute to practitioners. So for that, I believe we may wish to also develop a practical guidance on how the M model can be applied in various sectors, take into account the new developments, for example, a new alternative like technology, business model. I mean, one of the things that we say about LULUCF or nature-based solution that may be also quite important to accelerate further from, a previous plan that we have considered. Right now, we have to consider differently with the COVID-19, with a different sort of situation, or something that can be higher political level economy analysis, which can be regional and global sort of influence. The last point I think I learned from also our colleague, particularly from Malaysia, about the engagement consultation. I mean, promote ownership engagement of relevant stakeholders in making use of this model in their planning and decision-making process. I think is quite important. With that, I believe this the way we can translate policy and we can translate the theory and policy to practice, and then also the vice versa sort of feedback. This is the way I believe the way we can continue improve M model and also adapt to the need of different sort of key players. Thank you very much. I end my intervention here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Von Sok, for your explanation of ASEAN and also the expectations and the desires for the scientific community of AIM. Later on, let's discuss this point. And the next presenter, discussant, is from Laos. I'd like to introduce Mr. W.R.Siagian, the Deputy Director, GHG Mitigation Division, Department of the Climate Change, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, Laos. The floor is yours. Would you please, around 5 minutes. Sorry for your time limitation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Arino-san. Let me share my screen. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is W.R.Siagian from Laos, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment and Department of Climate Change. Actually, today I'm just a short presentation. I'd like to share with you what we are doing, particularly to develop the low carbon scenario for low carbon city. That now I'm working with the IGES team, particularly Nishikawa-san and also Maasui. The main objective of this proposal is to assess the low carbon city to develop the low carbon city scenario, and also to recommend them to mainstream or integrate the low carbon scenario into the long-term sustainable city development plans. And we also will define mainly the 3 scenarios, including the vision for low carbon city and mitigation policy intervention that we also have some discussion with local carbon authority as before. And the next some scenario also will be focusing on the roadmap to how to achieve the low carbon city for Luang Prabang city. And based on this analysis, this is some framework for this analysis. Based on the discussion with the Luang Prabang authority, they also prefer to cover on main sector in these 5 sectors: energy, transport, industry, and waste, and also affordable sector. And the target year is in 2050. For the required data or information, most of the data or information are already collected. However, based on the additional analysis, maybe some additional data is required. So we hope to bring the result from the simulation to discuss with the Luang Prabang authority maybe in July. And based on listen to Professor Ho presentation, he also saw some example, particularly with the low carbon blueprint or including the roadmap. So I also will discuss for more detail with Isakawa-san. Maybe I would like to invite the case from Malaysia by Professor Ho to share with the Luang Prabang authority on this issue. For my expectation for the future cooperation, particularly with AIM team, as I hope, I will work to support the collaboration between policymaker and researcher, particularly AIM team and researcher from Laos, to develop some low carbon scenario, particularly for the sector and also at the national national level. For example, in case of the Luang Prabang, after Luang Prabang case, I hope I would like to extend to another subnational as well. And I'm also very happy to join the research work with the AIM team, particularly to develop maybe the long-term scenario to support the NDC implementation for Laos. And the last one, I also hope more researcher, particularly for the young researcher from Laos, to be to be offered the opportunity to learn and involve with the AIM team, because right now they had to make understand it's quite difficult to find the researcher to work to particularly to support policymaker to develop the low carbon scenario in Laos. Okay, thanks all for my presentation.
Mr. Bunyua, thank you very much for your concise presentation and your expectations and the desires clearly stated. Thank you. Lastly, I'd like to invite Ishikawa-san, Ms. Tomoko Ishikawa, Joint Director, Knowledge and Communications, Strategic Management Office from Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. The floor is yours, Ishikawa-san, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And then okay, I will show my screen, just a moment. Yes, very good afternoon, everybody. So thank you very much for this very good opportunity. So we just seen good examples of Thailand and Malaysia, how AIM can be applied to policies, and then how researchers can contribute to policies and actions. So today, from my side, I will make short presentation on our cooperation with Vietnam. And I will touch on the support for evidence-based or science-based policymaking in Asia by fostering capacity development, as well as promoting regional knowledge sharing through the Low Carbon Asia Research Network, LoCaNet for short. And I am Tomoko Ishikawa. I'm working for the LoCaNet Secretariat housed at IGES. So let's start from the cooperation with Vietnam. So AIM project team contributed to the development of their national climate change strategy, NCCS, by providing analysis result for Vietnam, for example, reducing GHG emissions to virtually zero by 2050. So for the cooperation, so there were intergovernmental G2G agreement between Vietnam and Japan. So as you see that the 2020, Vietnam MONLE and MOEJ agreed on the comprehensive cooperation for advancing transition towards decarbonization in Vietnam, including developing long-term strategies by utilizing AIM. And then after COP26, two ministers met again and signed a joint cooperation plan on climate change towards carbon neutrality by 2050. And based on the agreement, AIM project team made very intensive modeling works in parallel with 8 consultation meetings amongst those concerned in 2 countries. So this is a kind of structure. So from Vietnam side, not only MONLE, but also the research institute that including ISPONLE, ISPONLE and then some other research institute invited by MONLE. And from Japanese side, MOEJ and then the embassy and JICA team and then the AIM team. So we that work together the very intensive manner. And this is a list of the consultation meetings, so that we have very intensive discussions that within the very short period. So as we just seen in Thailand and Malaysia cases, researchers gain capacities, then contribute to policies and actions in close communication with policymakers and practitioners by providing evidence-based analysis. And in Vietnam case, that we need to submit a report very short period, so that the modeling work and the consultants meeting were conducted in parallel with the technical support first by Japanese side, and then followed by the trainings to foster capacities of experts in country. And then we think that the ownership, that as just mentioned, the Bonsok, that the ownership is very important. Okay, so this is a training sessions introduction. So in order to foster researchers in Asia, so AIM team and LocalNet have been conducting a course of training sessions. So the first one that the AIM that the training workshop. So this is a very short training course for the very beginners. So not only researchers, but or rather that the policymaker and practitioners. And we think that there is growing importance to increase the number of policymakers and practitioners who understand AIM. Okay, and then the second one and the third one is the kind of that specific or that trainings for the researchers. And then we are now conducting the MEXSS and end-use training. And this session that we received 56 registrations from researchers in Asia. Okay, in addition that as opportunities to publicize the outreach our effort externally, so we have organized a side event at the fringe of international fora. So we had side event at COP27, and then the Bonsok-san and then Arino-san, also that other that AIM members joined this side event. And to facilitate the knowledge sharing within the region, that we so far that we organize LocalNet annual meeting, and then the 11th annual meeting will be held online in coming March. And recently, that from Indonesia, IPB and then the ITB team visited IGES, and they made a presentation, and their presentation was very informative, and we really enjoyed active Q&A sessions and on how deep that they can contribute to policy making processes, both national and local levels. And I think that this is one of the great functions of network, so that we will plan to resume that this kind of that in-person or that hybrid meeting or that networking opportunities in coming fiscal year to facilitate lively knowledge sharing and kind of triangular cooperation. And before closing, I'd like to raise expectation or request to AIM team. So I think that there is growing need for the cooperation for the development of local long-term strategies or that NDC update or that city plans. So how can the AIM team efficiently respond to this kind of urgent demand because or that under very tight or that human resource constraint. And I'm just wondering that whether that kind of triangular cooperation that as Bon Air-san just mentioned that the collaboration with Luang Prabang and in Malaysia, so that this kind of peer-to-peer learning that opportunities can be promoted. Yeah. Sorry. This is end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ishikawa-san, for your concise presentation and including rigorous information of the rigorous human capacity development programs. So thank you. Lastly, we would like to move on to the final panel discussion. Due to the time limitation, we have around 15 minutes. So that's how I summarized the discussion points by including the floor's questions as shown in the, as I distributed through the chat box. I will show the screen for your information, just in case. Please allow me to explain the discussion point. Firstly, I'd like to invite the Dr. Ho and Dr. Bundit, and also other three discussants. So firstly, please look at the left-hand side expectations from models and scenarios. So based on the ASEAN Secretariat's, the Dr. Von Sock, AIM's contributions for ASEAN member states LTS development, and also the four ASEAN regional level strategies. So how can AIM model or scenarios can contribute, and also including new alternatives like technologies and new business model with NBS, because the questions on the floor include questions about leadership sector and in Thailand for why the agricultural land doesn't need to be expanded to a larger extent, even though to secure to ensure the sync functions. So this kind of question also connected, and how to promote ownership and engagement. And lastly, Laos, the suggestions on research collaboration by multi-stakeholder engagement. And if you have any suggestions about to the Asian countries that do not have AI model capacity yet, and some lessons learned from your experience. So thank you. May I ask firstly to Professor Ho? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arino. I will take probably the two questions from here. One is on promoting ownership and engagement. I think this is a very important criteria for the success story of any modeling to policy to implementation. I think if we do not have a buy-in from the top mayor level, if in the case of city, or the council member level, certainly they were not able to get anything moving. So in our experience, about more than 15 to 20 cities, we realized the top-down of these mayors or even the director of each division, especially the building and engineering plus planning division, these three, are the key important stakeholders that will be able to get things moving. Apart from top down, we also need to have the buy-in from the bottom up. The NGOs, in fact, I think the most important, probably not the NGOs, is the business communities. The business communities are the ones who can fund the project, and you can see things moving. Then the other part is the visibility. When we talk about the buy-in, the implementation must be quick, so that when there is a visibility and the engagement, the ownership will come in very naturally. People will find that, wow, this city is moving towards low carbon and in line with the theme of carbon neutrality and low carbon strategy. And we have done that very successfully in this Iskandar, Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. The second question on the collaboration with any countries in ASEAN, we certainly are looking forward. And of course, I think we have, I have also traveled to Laos and Cambodia, Vietnam and Thailand, Indonesia, to promote and to work with them on all this work. But as mentioned by our Laos friend, Dr. I'm certainly, or Malaysia is certainly happy to engage with them for the capacity building and to help them to do it. For LTS, probably we are not. I'm not so much in the national level, but for regional and local authorities, we certainly would like to contribute to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ho. So may I ask Dr. Pundit for your feedback comments?
Yeah, thank you, Arino-san. Regarding AIM contribution for ASEAN member, including Thailand, you can see that AIM implementation in Thailand is very successful, especially in national level. We have done national level analysis using AIM, since NAMA from Copenhagen Accord, and the second time for Paris Agreement, and the last is setting long-term strategy for Thailand. And I think this is the whole story of the success of AIM in Thailand for national level. However, there are the local or city level that we have done. Of course, I want to say that not using AIM, the other model. Yeah. For some question from the four, just add in the case of Peter King asking for GDP loss. Of course, we are comparing to business as usual. That means when we do nothing, that is very ideal. Right? When we do nothing and we do mitigation, of course, right? That is the case that we will see change in GDP. You can see that when we do nothing and we do mitigation, GDP loss is very small. Of course, in our analysis, we already mentioned that we did not include other activities, such as in terms of job creation from clean technology, from clean job. In that case, if we include that, GDP will be up to us. That I think that is overestimate. Okay, so we presented fact to the government that if we do nothing, GDP loss is such 0.2-0.3%. Right, this is the fact that the government accept our proposal. For the case of affordable sector, I would like to suggest that very simple. Look at IPCC manual. Okay, so we are now using IPCC 2006 for inventory. That guideline already mentioned that if we improve something, we do something, such as for the cropland, remaining cropland, and also there will be some boundary and criteria from IPCC that we can account that activity as carbon sink. Okay, I would like to recommend that consult IPCC guideline on greenhouse gas inventory, like how to improve carbon sink. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bundit. Next, may I ask Dr. Bonsok if you have any the additional feedback by listening to professors' discussions. if you have any suggestions to the scientific community or policy arena.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arino-san, and thank you both professor that is really provide this important insight. I think Thailand, Malaysia case quite advanced using different, I mean, Thailand of course use different model, but I think Malaysia also use this M model, including inclusive sort of consultation and engagement of different sort of key player or relevant stakeholder. With that, I believe this is an opportunity with the new commitment of ASEAN member states to different sort of COP. I mean, as you may have known, the COP26, COP27, it's all about the way we have to translate from whatever the strategy and policy to action. And then this is the way we have to take into account a different sort of challenge that happen in our region, not only by within in ASEAN member state itself, but also, you know, external sort of pressure that can make things change. It's not really, you know, the plan as it is. We need to adapt our plan and then, you know, engage and build the capacity how to reflect this change. Because the tool, if developed one day, it may not fit for all and not fit for all time. It may need to reflect, and also I think the engagement of different key players is still a valid point in the way of to address some gap and limitation from sound side. And I believe that all the environment and social economic variable that proposed in that sort of modeling, there may be some limitation here and there and more like quantitative. I think the way complement with the engagement and consultation of different players, this is the way we can validate the key importance of the need of the country as well as the city. This is one of the most important I just would like to highlight. The last point that I would like to make, right now we learn this sort of progress along, you know, it's not just theory, it's already applied in Thailand and also Malaysia and other part in Indonesia. And also Vietnam and so on. With that respect, I think now maybe IGES and NIES and as well as other community member to, you know, how we can work together to accelerate this tool to apply and adapt with new sort of development. And with that, this is the way I believe can contribute in response to the last commitment made by ASEAN member states, and how we can see this achieve or not. That's the way we can realign our policy direction or complement sort of our policy as a next step forward. I end my intervention here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Von. And next, may I ask Mr. Von Yua?
Okay, thank you. I would like to inform you that, as you may know already, this year Laos is the chair of the ASEAN. So I just attended the global GCM meeting in Tokyo and just come back today. After the global GCM meeting, we also, I just also said bilateral meeting that we yesterday we have discussed with the representative from MOEJ, and he also raised the issue particularly for the ASEAN Japan meeting. He also asked about the agenda for this meeting. So for my recommendation, I would like to, if we can, how to say, list the offer the contribution for the ASEAN member state on low carbon strategy in the agenda for discussion between ASEAN and Japan. I mean, it can how to say have more some fruitful for long term. After I return to Laos, they will come to discuss with us again. So I will ask them to consider this issue in the agenda as well. Regarding with the new alternatives, or particularly for the technology, I found that many cases after we did the low carbon scenario is mean it in place already in some grouping or in the document. However, in order to bring that action to be implementing at the ground, I think is the most important than we just analyze the scenario. So for the policy transferring or support from member country is also could be taken to account. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonura. Lastly, can I ask Ishika-san, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to address the last question that from Laos. So we would like to promote the kind of information exchange or knowledge sharing through the network activities, and then also that we will continue that training sessions that now that we conduct training that online, so that video recording is ready, so that we would like to utilize this kind of online opportunities, but that if circumstance allows that perhaps that in-person training also very effective. And that I would like to add to that one thing that as already that stressed some that speakers, we would like to encourage that youth participation in the network or AIM activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ishika-san, and all panelists. This is the last, already past the 15, but last, if you have any last comment, less than 20 or 30 seconds, please let us know. Their last feedback comments to wrap up this session. Dr. Von-Suk, please.
Thank you very much. Just add a small thing to what our colleague from Laos just mentioned. I think the way how we can work, I mean, when we say ASEAN, but it's not clear about what mechanism. I mean, with that, I just would like to highlight quick. I mean, maybe Tomoko can continue your project and then replicate that sort of action to different sort of project side. Secondly, I think from the university network and also from the think tank that the IGES can, can extend further in terms of build their capacity to engage this model. That's a more concrete. I mean, if we do with the climate change working group itself, because they are not really research or modeling sort of people per se. In this regard, it may be not really go fast enough. I mean, Thailand case is really engaged well. I mean, the kind of one together, academic and practitioner working together. But I think the other country may not be similar. I think this is a more concrete step forward. I just would like to share that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Von-Suk. Ho Sensei or Benedict Sensei, is that okay?
Yeah, a very quick one is I think science to action are important here. And I think the other more important thing is the act now. Act now meaning to say that I think we should try to sort out all the low-hanging fruits for implementation. And this could also important for the collaboration between city to cities so that we can understand best practices from other cities. Example like Japan or any ASEAN countries could be shared with another country. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you very much. Dr. Bendik?
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to highlight that we need to work together as a partnership that you already mentioned in SDG. And most important is now, as you know, that UN announced that the world, we will achieve 1.5 degree warming by the next 5 years. That will be for 2030. That it is no time to do mitigation. I think that I want to say that to do mitigation is too late. We are now have to do adaptation together with mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonura-san, last comment.
Maybe just add one more thing that also get the information from global GCM meeting. From the presentation from Nishikawa-san, she also mentioned about the city to city cooperation program. So based on this program, I think it's very useful for the member country, particularly for, as I mentioned, it need to bring the action that is identified already to bring to implementation at the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, Ishika-san.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very good opportunity. So we would like to that continue that work together and then facilitate that every effort that towards the kind of that decarbonization and then the sustainability in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. This is the all of this the session 2. Thank you very much for panel for your active participation and the audience for your patiently listening to. So I'd like to give back the floor to Melissa-san. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Arino, and also all the panelists. Before going to the next sessions, we actually still have another discussion left. So I would like to first invite another discussion Mr. Nutafut Intarode, the Director of Sustainable Development, the Siam Cement PLC. So Mr. Nutafut, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to have you here in this session. Please let me share my screen. I would like to share something about the sustainability things that we done along 3 more years ago, especially in our ESG moving forward. Here, this is our headquarters in Bangkok. If you have a chance to visit Bangkok, you can see it's the opposite side from the Grand Station of the train in Thailand. About the SCG, right now SCG turned to 110 years already. The King Lama VI found our company 110 years ago. Right now we have the footprint over the Asian. We call ourselves like Asian Plus. Right now over 55,000 employees are spread around the group, especially more in our Southeast Asia. Our 3 core main business right now is composed of 3 core main business. The first one, cement and building materials. We born from this part in 110 years ago, and after that expand our wings to other industries. The second one is petrochemicals business, and the last part is about packaging solution business. This is the core main things that we focus on our business. As I mentioned, we call ourselves it's like a regional Asian Plus. Our footprint not just in Asian countries, but in India, in China, and in European country as well. On the right side is about the thing that guaranteed us about the sustainability. Last year, we got a good news again about we were number 1 in Dow Jones Sustainability Index of the cement and construction sector. We also comply with the CDP that in line with the science-based target, and MSCI, we got AA and FTSE for good. And this is the thing that we see right now. The way is not the same anymore. Regarding to, we confessed with the COVID pandemic 3 years ago, and after that we confronted with the wave of the hyperinflation, especially in Europe and in other part of the world, in America and in our region as well. So with this chunk, it's come up with a number of crises inside these waves, right? But the biggest chunk that our humankind confess is about the climate change. So this is the biggest one that we have to help each other to move toward and send our one world to our next generation. So why? Because we are in the era of the wave of crisis. So we need the thing that better than the past. And SCG who be the one of the problem, but in opposite side, we need to be one of the solution for this group as well. So why we set up the ESG 4+ for our strategic move. Regarding this, we set up this. I think this is the 2nd year of us already by Kunungrotang CEO Prat, our CEO, in order to let our SCG people know about the direction that we would like to move toward to achieve our ambition in 2050. The first one is about set net zero by 2050. We would like to decarbonize things that we have here not just in Thailand, but around our footprint that we have already in other part of the globe to achieve it in 2050. The second one is about the Grow Green, to adjust our portfolio from the high carbon intensity product and service to the low carbon ones. And the third part is about reduce inequality, because we are one the problem of the society. So we need to help the society based on the platform that we have. And reduce inequality is the other part that we would like to make the right balance for the society. SDG cannot move everything by SDG self, but we need a collaboration from global to local and for other countries around the group as well. Plus trust transparency is the most important one, that we would try to make the good governance for our company, to let the stakeholders that see us to understand about what we would like to move toward for the future, not just for our company, but for our next generation. This is the first thing that we set up, is come up with the set net zero in order to achieve the net zero ambition in 2050 based on 5 key levers. As someone said already about the low-hanging fruit, right? Energy efficiency is like the process that we would like to lean the lipid that we have a big chunk in ourselves. This is the first lever that we have to move toward. And the second one is about low greenhouse gas energy sources. We have to shift from coal, and we already have the plan for the fade out coal already in our business in the next 10 years. And we come up with the low carbon product that we would like to produce a greener portfolio for not just ourselves, but for the operation that we have around the globe. And the fourth part is about the carbon capture and utilization. Every industry needs this technology in order to manage and mitigate and get rid of the things that still remain from our efforts, right? And the last part, Mother of Nature, we would like to turn something back for our Mother of Nature. So come up with the natural climate solution is the last part that quite important for the land that we have. So as I mentioned, we already aim about the green portfolio by 2030, 67 of them create from this new revenue stream. But at the CE as a core of their business of SCG over 10 years already. So 100% for recyclable packaging will help us to achieve for the CE target. And at the same thing, as you mentioned about the renewable energy, we already set a target for 500 megawatt to achieve in renewable energy by 2023. That's mean this year. And as I mentioned, with the problem in the society, we have to help the society around us to move up together. So we aim for the target for 20,000 jobs in demand will be happen in Thailand and around the area that we have the operation by 2025 through the platform that we already create in Thailand, and spread this platform to other countries, like the project that we call Power of Community. We bring the community to life during the COVID pandemic. Someone lacks the job, right, at that time, and we bring the family, we bring the housewife to reskill, upskill, and come up with the new skill, like to operate for the, what does it call, the snack that can sell to the local market or in our marketplace at SCG, or make some cookie and then sell it to the APAC event with this. This is the other part that we can help the society, bring them back and get the job, and then bring the money back to the families during the crisis. And the other case is about the platform that we built in Thailand. We bring the taxi drivers and then turn them during the COVID pandemic to the truck driver. During that time, the e-commerce rushed out, right? And they got the new job, and they still exist through our platform. This is just the other example that we have to expand our facility to help them during the crisis. And as I mentioned, SCG itself cannot do everything. We need a collaboration, not just from our national level, but need from the global level as well, because we are in the developing country, right? Some innovation, some collaboration we need from outside the world, that outside the developing country like us. This is the other example that I gave to you. Is about the low carbon cement in Thailand in the past. The construction in Thailand based on the OPC that emit about the CO2 a lot, right? 3 years ago, we start bit by bit to develop about the low carbon cement part. And we try to engage not just for the private sector, but for the government sector as well to use this one. And finally, we come up with this commitment along the government sector and the private sector. We already announced with the PPP to announce about we will gonna reduce for the CO2 through this low carbon cement with the whole association, whole industry, whole society by set up about the reduction target at 1 million tons CO2 by this year. This is already done in Thailand, and this is the successful one that we already stamped in COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh by bringing the collaboration among the Thailand Cement Manufacturing Association, Thailand Concrete Association, and construction in Thailand to join together to build this roadmap by using the platform from Global Cement and Association, GCCA, and bring this to life in Thailand and bring this to life at the COP. And right now we are in the second phase of them. We plan to start about the sandbox in Srabut province that like every producers in Thailand have the location for the operation base there. And we think that we can make a big improvement for the decarbonization for this sector, not just for the cement, but the whole value chain of the construction. If you can see from the roadmap, we start from design build. This roadmap is regarding to the thing that GCCA already stamped in COP26 in Glasgow, right? And we bring that roadmap to life in Thailand last year and start with decarbonize from the back end to the front end as the thing that we produce in cement. And we do believe that by 2050, we will achieve net zero through the whole industry in Thailand. This is the thing that we already stamped with our government sector in Sharm el-Sheikh. And the middleman, the Frenchman who be the GCCA CEO, be on stage at the Thai Pavilion. This is the other milestone that we already achieved. And as I mentioned, without trust and transparency, we can move this forward. So regarding to the ESG 4+, we need this part. And we do believe that this will help us to achieve for the longer term for the ambition for the net zero to achieve in 2050. That's all from ACG. Thank you very much.
Tafut, for sharing your insight, especially from the perspective of cement industry. It is very useful indeed and also very interesting. But well, the time is very limited, so we need to move to the next sessions. Before I end this forum, I think it will be good to revisit and summarize all the discussion that we already gathered from all the sessions. And for that, we would like to invite the chairman of each sessions. First, I would like to invite Dr. Hanaoka to share his notes and summary on the first session. Dr. Hanaoka, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, I need to apologize that due to the internet connection, so we had some problems in the session 1. So this is a very, very short summary of the session 1. Okay, and I picked up some keywords in each presentation and discussions. So the first presentation by Johnson. So he mentioned about the importance of the multi-objective modeling covering the SDGs. So for example, we should discuss not only the decarbonization society, but we can also discuss the combinations between the climate mitigation and air quality, and also climate mitigation and the water demand. And also he pointed out some potential or the feasibility of technologies to drive the energy transitions, especially focusing on some PVs at the fastest pace and also the cheaper price in China. Okay. And the second presentation by the Ucok-san in the Indonesia, he explained the very much detailed information about the future assumptions and the sectoral result. And then we could see that in the result, in order to achieve the net zero emissions, so we need to move more electrifications in the demand side, and so we need to push more renewables in the energy supply side. But at the same time, in the Indonesia, Ucok-san picked up the various challenges in multi-sectors in order to achieve the net zero emissions in Indonesia. So the promotion of EV or the issues about the infrastructure or finance and so on. And then by the Kato-san, he pointed out some comment from the viewpoint of international cooperation. And then he mentioned about the importance, but the challenges of the decision making based on the science evidence. Then he shared his experience of JICA low carbon technology assessment in Vietnam. And he mentioned about some expectations to the AIM modeling. For example, like a growing needs of the national and local government for the capacity to implement the climate policies and so on. Then we discussed some issues and I picked up. And also, yes, just now, the Nutavitu-san introduced about the green production and green portfolios from the viewpoint of a company and the sectoral perspective. Okay, and then we discuss in session one, we discussed a couple of things, but I summarized into four. One is that there are some requests, such as a policy for summary for policy making, because it is quite in order to interpret the detailed modeling result, in order to promote more stakeholder engagements, because from modeling results are sometimes quite complicated. So we need to summarize the key points and then discuss with the policymakers. That is one point. And the second is that it is more important to pay attention to the international and national corporations, such as technology transfer, financial transfer, R&Ds, and so on, in order to realize this decarbonization society. Yes, and then by summarizing some key words, then I picked up the keyword like designing. So I think that it is quite important to design something. So design policies, or I mean like finance, how to do the finance or R&D, or designing energy transitions. For example, like by considering the technology costs and the infrastructure impact and so on. And lastly, I picked up one keyword. From the viewpoint of modeling, we need to improve the quality of modeling in order to gain the trust from the policymakers and the stakeholders. We should not develop the models for the sake of modeling. So we, as we wrote here, model is a tool to assess the transition options, and also modeling is a tool to communicate with stakeholders and general audience. Okay, that is my conclusion. Thank you very much for your participation and also listening to this session one.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hanaoka, for your summary. Next, I would like to invite the chair of the session 2, Dr. Arino, to share his summary of his session. Dr. Arino, floor is yours.
Thank you for your time and introduction. I will share my screen. Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to wrap up the session two's key points. And we discussed with this member, two presentations from the Malaysia, the Ho Sensei, and the Thailand, Bundit Sensei, and the three other the discussants from the ASEAN Secretariat and Laos and Japan IGES. And first of all, the Dr. Ho focused on the city level activities by means of the AIM applications, and very detailed and very rich experiences over the last decades have been shared. And also this kind of what was impressive was not only the Iskandar this level, but also the municipality levels include inside the Iskandar, the all levels, the local levels, and the very much granularity are now happening. And this kind of the very tailor-made information and the practices can be shared to the national or some other levels because of the preciseness of the knowledge. And also the findings from the multi-stakeholder engagement, also like communication, community engagement was one of his key words, and that is very necessary for the ownership as well. And and also he is stressed that the people, institutions, and the science policies and actions, so they're all key components and key actors functions are well functioned, and then these sophisticated plans and the roadmaps are being developed. And as compared to the Ho Sensei's presentation, Dr. Bundit focused on the Thailand's the national level achievement by using the AI model. So a long-term strategy of the Thailand was based on the AI model. And the sector-wise, the rich information and the techniques are shared very in a transparent manner. And not only the AI model, the CGE and the end-use model, more micro-level analysis of the marginal benefit cost curves, and also other co-benefit analysis, and such analyses are also being done, he introduced. And following these two presentations, Dr. Von Sok from ASEAN and Laos, the Mr. Bonjour from Laos shared their views and expectations toward the scientific communities. I'd like to use this summary, the discussion session, to promote science-based policy and policy-based science through AIM development. Ownership and engagement are vital. Both top-down and bottom-up engagement, including businesses, NGO, citizens, and youth. And I think it's also the scientific communities. And secondly, building on the achievement of AI model development, successful translation into national and municipality level, medium-term and long-term policy, we need to fill the capacity gaps for modeling and planning at various levels from national to local or city levels, because each country has different strengths and the different weaknesses, I guess, so including mutual learning across countries and also across stakeholders will be very significant, and including city-to-city collaboration, also city-to-national collaboration, or city-to regional or international collaborations might be effective. And lastly, I'd like to conclude this summary about saying that it might be worth considering the areas for improvement to embrace new alternatives, technological assumptions, and the new business models in alignment with the nature-based solutions. And such things, maybe leadership sector or AFOL sector can need to be more linked in a consistent manner, or maybe we may be able to come up with different approaches to link these areas well in this AI model framework. This is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arino. We are getting closer to the end of this forum. However, before we close this forum, we would like to humbly ask Professor Yuichi Moriguchi, the Vice President of NIES, to make his closing address. Professor Moriguchi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marisa. Good afternoon, distinguished participants. My name is Yuichi Moriguchi, Vice President of National Institute of Environmental Studies. On behalf of the organizers, I am delighted to deliver these closing remarks. The theme of the forum this year was, how has Asia Pacific Integrated Model, AIM, committed to decarbonization? In order to discuss how we can effectively realize the decarbonized society, we have co-organized this forum with Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to IGES. Our president introduced the history of NIES International Forum in his opening address. Then today's second keynote speaker, Ms. Junko Nishikawa, mentioned her attendance in fifth forum took place in Yangon, Myanmar. I was also there in person. It was January 2020, I mean, just before the starting of COVID-19 pandemic. I also had a chance to celebrate 25th anniversary of AIM workshop here in NIES in November 2019. Fortunately, a few months before the pandemic, you can see the photo at that time. Since then, during the last 3 years, we have experienced difficult days for international collaboration because of COVID-19 and other unexpected geopolitical challenges. Nevertheless, I am so glad to see my old friends and new friends online today, listen to a lot of exceptionally informative talks and constructive discussions from various stakeholders. I would appreciate all eminent speakers and discussants for the excellent presentations and discussions. My appreciation also goes to session chairs and MC who facilitated this forum. Personally, I want to meet all of you in person to promote international collaboration and cooperation based on the face-to-face communication. However, considering greenhouse gas emissions associated with international travel, this kind of online meeting might be good or better for achieving decarbonized society. Maybe this is an opportunity to transform our way of international activities more sustainable. Our institute, NIES, is now in the second fiscal year in our fifth 5-year plan. We dedicate not only for having scientific achievement, but also for sharing our research findings with a wide range of stakeholders in our society. We will strive to make our activities applicable in the era of carbon neutrality and post-COVID-19. Once again, I would like to thank all the participants for bringing your expertise and experience in each session. Without your input, ideas, and discussion, this forum would not have been succeeded. Now we are getting to the closing time of the 8th International Forum on Sustainable Future in Asia. We shall be most grateful if you let us have your feedback. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Professor Moriguchi. We have covered all of the items for today. And so this is the end of the 8th International Forum for Sustainable Future in Asia. I declare that the meeting is now closed. Thank you very much for attending and see you again in the next International Forum. Thank you.